Chapter 1149. Returning Wind Whisks Willow Sword. Lin Xian bellowed coldly as streaks of sword aura surged out of his body, circling around his body as he charged forward. The sword chi was like willow branches. The green branches were extremely soft. On the willow branches there were golden leaves. They were as sharp as swords and were unstoppable. The willow branches of sword chi circled around him and circled quickly. They formed a huge semicircle that wrapped around Lin Xian and Zhao Shui, resisting the shocking saber light. The returning wind whisks willow sword was the Lin family's secret technique. However, it was very powerful when used in the spirit detecting realm. Once one entered the honorable realm, it would be useless. However, Lin Xian had just learned how to use softness with toughness. When he used it now, the originally dim martial art became magical again. In the next moment, the two collided and the entire void let out a cracking sound. The willow branches of sword chi were like a breeze and contained the power of the wind. On the other hand, the golden leaves contained the power of the dragon sword soul and were extremely sharp. The perfect combination of the two unleashed a miraculous power that blocked the shocking saber light. At that moment, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui charged out of the saber light's range and flew into the distance. What? He blocked it? Both Little Fatty and Yen Feng were shocked by this scene. Little Fatty did not expect Lin Xian to be able to block the sword chi. It was unbelievable. Yen Feng was even more furious. His handsome face was terrifyingly gloomy. He had already used the power of his saber soul. Even a seventh heaven honorable would not be able to block it. However, he did not expect that. His opponent, a fifth heaven honorable realm brat, would block it for no reason. This shocked him greatly. Damn it! What does this brat have? How can he block the power of my saber soul? Yen Feng gritted his teeth and said. Looking at the two disappearing figures, he snorted and was about to chase after them. However, as soon as he moved, Little Fatty ran in the opposite direction of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. Damn it! Seeing this, Yen Feng became even more furious. After struggling for a moment, he finally gave up on killing Lin Xian and turned to chase after the Little Fatty. Because the Little Fatty had discovered his secret, he had to get rid of him to prevent the news from leaking out. His expression hardened and like a beam of blue light, he instantly shot towards Little Fatty. Motherfucker! You're actually chasing me? Why don't you chase after those two? When Little Fatty saw the lunatic chasing after him, he immediately cursed loudly. However, although he was cursing, his speed did not slow down at all. Running all the way, Little Fatty finally saw another group of people. He had chosen this direction because he wanted to get rid of Yen Feng and because Lin Xian had sent him a message. This was because before Lin Xian left, he had sent a voice transmission to Little Fatty, telling him to head in this direction, saying that he would definitely be able to escape from danger. Little Fatty originally thought that Lin Xian could lure Yen Feng away, but later he realized that he was wrong. Yen Feng did not leave and in the following time he did not meet anyone else. Immediately he cursed Lin Xian in his heart. But now he was very grateful to Lin Xian because he saw a group of people ahead. Elder, second brother, big brother. You're here. Seeing those people, Little Fatty happily cheered. Because that group of people was none other than the people of Merry Woods. It seemed that this guy was more reliable than he had imagined. If I escape in this direction, I will really be able to see my clansmen. Little Fatty did not hate Lin Xian at all now and even felt a little grateful. Jianghu, what's wrong with you? Why is your face so pale? A Merry Woods elder anxiously asked. Sigh, elder, don't mention it. There's a lunatic chasing after me. Little Fatty's face was full of anger. Luckily I ran quickly, otherwise I would not be able to see you now. What? Someone dares to hurt you? Immediately the elder was enraged. Beside him, the other Merry Woods disciples also coldly shouted, Who is so blind to dare bully our Merry Woods people? Does he not want to live anymore? Jianghu, tell me who bullied you, I will help you. The elder also said in a deep voice. It's a lunatic, the famous lunatic Yen from the Palace of Gods of War. Little Fatty was constantly panting. Running all the way here, he had used up a lot of his spiritual energy. Lunatic Yen from the Palace of Gods of War? Is it that peerless genius Yen Feng? Many disciples exclaimed. The elder's face also darkened and he quickly asked, Is it really Yen Feng? Yes, it's him. Little Fatty said. Why did you provoke that lunatic for no reason? The elder's face was full of resentment. Don't you know that guy is mentally unstable? Little Fatty's mouth immediately twitched. What the hell, what's going on? Didn't you say you would help me take revenge? Why are you talking about me now? But at this time, an unusually fierce aura suddenly came from behind, as if the entire space could not withstand it. Not good, that lunatic is chasing after us. When little fatty felt that aura, he jumped in fright and immediately hid behind the elder. In the next moment, an arrogant figure appeared, floating in the air, coldly looking down at the group of people from the merry woods. His lightning-like eyes stared at little fatty. No matter where you run to, you can't escape death. Yin Feng's voice was cold. Bah, damn lunatic, I can't beat you, but I'm not afraid of you now. Come over if you have the ability, we'll beat you to death. Little fatty waved his fist. You're talking about this group of people? Yin Feng showed a look of disdain. Since that's the case, I'll kill all of them. Hearing this, the hearts of the disciples from the merry woods trembled, because they felt a terrifying murderous aura coming from the figure above them. As for the elder and the other elders, they coldly snorted, their faces gloomy. The other party was too arrogant, he did not put them in his eyes at all. No matter what, they were still a sovereign family. Although the other party was a peerless genius and was powerful, they had more people on their side. If they really fought, it was not certain who would win. Lunatic, don't be so arrogant, I advise you to leave quickly, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. An elder from the merry woods snorted. Rude? I'd like to see how rude you are going to be. Yin Feng was extremely arrogant, his black hair fluttering in the wind. Like a lunatic, he reached out a large hand to grab little fatty. The palm covered the sky and the sun, and there were sharp saber lights circling around its fingers, which even enveloped the elder. You're courting death. Seeing this, the elder was furious and punched upwards. This punch was like a ferocious tiger, shaking the void, and instantly collided with the sky-covering hand. Rumble. In the next moment, a terrifying explosion of energy swept out in all directions. Chapter 1150. Ping Pong. A series of explosions rang out. The elder from merry woods kept retreating, causing the ground to crack. Then, a look of shock appeared on his face. He didn't expect his opponent to be so strong that he could suppress him. The surrounding warriors of the merry woods were also extremely shocked when they saw this. They had never thought that their elder would be targeted in just one move. It was too hard to be confident. After all, his opponent was just a young man. This lunatic was too heaven-defying. After the initial shock, the elder's face turned gloomy. His opponent was too arrogant. Did he think that there was no one in merry woods? Kid, you're too arrogant. Don't think that you can ignore everything just because you're strong. Merry woods isn't something you can provoke. The elder's voice was cold. In the next moment, his body emitted a blazing light, as if he was a bright sun. A blurry figure quickly rolled behind him and then condensed into form. It was a goshawk. Its body was jet black, like an ancient demonic beast. The goshawk's body emitted a terrifying aura, causing people to tremble. Especially its eyes, which were incomparably sharp and cold as if they were real. This goshawk was the martial spirit of the elder from merry woods. He was too angry, so he quickly released his martial spirit. Sky-shaking eagle. This is the elder's martial spirit. Looks like the elder is going to use his full strength. A group of merry woods disciples were shocked. Then their eyes were filled with excitement. They believed that as long as their elder released his martial spirit, he would be able to deal with this lunatic in front of them. Little Fatty's face was also nervous. His hands were constantly clasped together and he kept muttering, kill him, we must kill this lunatic." In front of them, Yin Feng's eyes were cold as if he was the god of death. "What? You're so desperate that you've released your martial spirit?" His voice was calm and even had a hint of frivolity. It was obvious that he didn't take his opponent seriously. "Since that's the case, I won't play with you anymore," Yin Feng said coldly. In the next moment, he grasped the demon slayer at his waist. Suddenly, his entire body became extremely sharp. It was as if he was no longer human, but a peerless divine blade. No one dared to look at him directly. At this moment, the surrounding warriors were all trembling because the aura was too terrifying. It was as if an invisible saber light was going to cut them in half. "Die, you old bastard." Yin Feng's voice was cold. In the next moment, he quickly drew his saber. A sonorous sound rang out, causing the entire world to tremble. Then, a blue light appeared in the sky like a canopy and spread out in all directions. The elder of the merry woods also let out a long roar, and with the martial spirit behind him, he quickly rushed forward. With a bang, the entire world shook violently. The ground cracked open, and a crack that was almost 1,000 feet long appeared under their feet, spreading into the distance. At the point of collision, spatial cracks appeared. Numerous black holes flickered in the sky, as if they were deep abysses. The surrounding martial artists cried out in alarm and quickly retreated because that energy was too terrifying. If they were affected by it, they would lose their lives. The little fatty also screamed and quickly activated the green shoes on his feet. Like a green gust of wind, he instantly left the battlefield. However, his eyes were fixed on the center. After an intense collision, a muffled groan was heard. Immediately after, the energy in front of them exploded, and two figures appeared. Could it be that the victor has been decided? Everyone was shocked and looked forward anxiously. They wanted to know what the result was. The battle had ended so quickly that it was beyond their imagination. However, an even more shocking scene appeared. The one who was sent flying was not Yen Feng from the Palace of Ares, but the Elder of the Merry Woods. What? How is this possible? The disciples of the Merry Woods were stunned. They could not believe it. Their elder was a 7th-rank honorable realm, and he had even summoned his martial spirit. He was extremely powerful, but he was still defeated. How strong was Yen Feng? Everyone looked at this scene and felt their scalps go numb. Damn it. The little fatty's face was also gloomy. He gritted his teeth and quickly flew towards the injured elder. Elder, are you all right? The little fatty quickly took out 2 blue pills and fed them to the elder. I did not expect that kid to be so strong. He could even defeat my martial spirit so easily. Jianghu, you should leave quickly. The elder of the Merry Woods said weakly. Although the Merry Woods was also a king family and no one dared to provoke them, that was only for ordinary people. Their family's reputation was completely useless against this lunatic in front of them. Damn it, let's fight it out with him. I don't believe that he can defeat so many of us. The little fatty gritted his teeth and glared at the front. He was too angry. The other party was too arrogant. They had already fought their way to their home, but they were still unwilling to let go. I want to let him know the power of the Merry Woods. Don't be rash. The injured elder stopped the little fatty and said in a low voice, You are not his match yet. Leave quickly and find our people. Then you will be safe. Yen Feng sneered, What, you still want to resist? If you really dare to attack, I don't mind killing all of you. His expression was arrogant as if he was a lunatic. What arrogance, who dares to destroy the Merry Woods? However, at this moment, a cold snort came from afar, following which countless powerful auras rushed over. It's the 6th elder, they are here. Hearing this voice, the disciples of the Merry Woods all cheered. The little fatty and the injured elder also heaved a sigh of relief. Because their reinforcements had arrived, they were safe. Yen Feng frowned. He did not expect that the other party would come at this time. This was not good news for him. After all, he did not have much time to waste here. With a cold snort, Yen Feng raised his long sword and slashed down again. A blue sword light flew out and swept through the sky like a huge wave. It was very terrifying. In an instant, it enveloped the little fatty. Feeling this aura, all the disciples including the little fatty's face changed. They could not escape at all. At this moment, a surge of energy came from afar. A palm as big as a mountain suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Then, with a terrifying posture, it fiercely attacked the sword light. The two collided and a shocking sound was heard. Then the huge palm was cut open. However, the blade light also rapidly weakened. In the end, it dissipated into the surroundings. In the next moment, a group of people quickly arrived. This group of people were the cultivators of the Merry Woods. At this moment, they had arrived in time to help. The leader of the group had a powerful aura. He was even stronger than the injured elder. When he saw Yen Feng in the distance, he frowned. The Merry Woods and the Palace of Gods of War do not have any grudges. Why are you attacking? Chapter 1151. Even if the other party was a peerless genius from the Palace of Gods of War, they would not be afraid because the Merry Woods were not afraid of the Palace of Gods of War. Therefore they had to get back at them. At this moment, another group of people quickly arrived from the horizon. When Yen Feng saw this group of people, his face turned ugly. It was because the group of people who had arrived later were all from the Murong family. The one leading them was Murong Qingchen, who was wearing a purple robe and looking as beautiful as a goddess. He did not know why Murong Qingchen was here, but he knew that she did not have a good relationship with the Palace of Gods of War. If the Murong clan came to help the Merry Woods, then he would have to leave today. What happened? Murong Qingchen also asked as soon as she arrived. Beauty Murong is here too. Little Fatty jumped out and quickly explained. For the rest of the time, he recounted the entire process with exaggerated details. You're saying that he attacked a person wearing a green robe and carrying an ancient sword? Murong Qingqing asked in a low voice. Yes, but that person was wearing a bright red armor and was not injured. It's strange that a level 5 brat could survive under a lunatic's blade. It's really shocking. Murong Qingqing's face turned cold. If she was not wrong, the youth that little fatty described was Lin Xian. This damn lunatic, he actually dared to attack Lin Xian. Thinking of this, Murong Qingqing clenched her fists under her sleeves. Then, she looked at the Merry Woods elder. How do you want to resolve this matter? Of course we want to get justice. Don't try to persuade me. The Merry Woods elder thought that Murong Qingqing was trying to stop the fight. But in the next moment he was stunned. Not only him but everyone was stunned. Murong Qingqing's face was as dark as water. She said in a low voice, "Stop the fight? I'm not interested in that. I plan to attack together with you." Attack together? The Merry Woods elders were also stunned, but then their faces were filled with joy. With Murong Qingqing's help, their chances of success would definitely increase by a lot. When the little fatty heard this, his face was filled with shock. What was this girl doing? She actually wanted to attack Madman as well? That Madman had never offended her. He had a confused look on his face and didn't understand at all. Yan Feng didn't understand either. However, his expression became very ugly because it seemed that Murong Qingqing wasn't just going to fight by herself. She was going to bring the entire Murong family with her. I feel that to deal with such a lunatic, we should forget about fighting one-on-one. Why don't we gang up on him? Good idea, I like it. Fatty clapped his hands and began to organize the disciples of Merry Woods. He had been chased by Yan Feng all this while, and he had been feeling extremely sullen. Now that he could retaliate, he was naturally excited. Moreover, he knew that Yan Feng was going to be in trouble this time. Putting aside the enormous strength of the two sovereign clans, just the combined strength of Murong Qingqing and the group of elders was enough to make Yan Feng unable to resist. The reason for that was because no matter how powerful his opponent was, he was still only a 7th layer exalted. Therefore they were extremely confident this time. Yan Feng's expression was gloomy. Although he was arrogant, he wasn't a fool. In the next moment he turned around and flew into the distance. Trying to run? Not so easy. Murong Qingqing activated the True Phoenix Imperial Jade Seal and unleashed a shocking attack. A huge phoenix covered the sky. When it spread its wings, it covered a radius of 1,000 miles. The elders of Merry Woods also took action. Surging spiritual energy quickly surged forward. In an instant, a great battle broke out. If he had the chance to start over, Yan Feng would definitely not have chased after this little fatty. Because he would never have thought that this would happen. Now he was being surrounded by a few 7th layer exalted and a group of 6th layer exalted. Finally, there were countless young disciples outside. Although they were like ants in his eyes, the combined attack of so many people was not to be underestimated. Under the combined attack of so many people, his blood was churning. He spat out mouthfuls of snow and suffered heavy injuries all over his body. Ah, damn it! Yan Feng roared angrily, feeling extremely aggrieved. It wasn't that he wasn't strong, but that this group of people was too strong. No matter who came, they wouldn't be able to resist. Merry Woods, Murong family, I'll remember this. Yan Feng gritted his teeth. Then, without hesitation, he summoned his saber soul and became one with his saber. He turned into a shocking saber light and rushed into the sky to escape. He's running away. Oh, Madman Yan is running away. The disciples were excited. Damn Madman, who asked you to chase after me? Now you know that I'm not to be trifled with. Little Fatty had a smug look on his face as well. As for Yan Feng's threat before he left, the two families didn't take it to heart. Their strength was not weaker than the Palace of Ares, so they weren't afraid of revenge. Moreover, this matter was provoked by the other party. No matter which side they were on, they were all victims and had enough reason to attack. The elders of Merry Woods also revealed gratified smiles. However, they then glared at Little Fatty. Ching Ho, didn't we warn you not to cause trouble here? In all honesty, I really didn't provoke that madman. Little Fatty raised his hand and swore. Why did that madman want to kill you? That's because I discovered a secret. Little Fatty said proudly. Secret? What secret? Everyone was interested. A secret that could make Yan Feng offend Merry Woods and kill him must be extraordinary. Even the people from the Murong family looked over curiously. Murong girl, thank you for your help this time. Why don't we discuss it together? The elders of Merry Woods invited. Okay. Murong Qingqing didn't refuse. She was also very curious about what kind of secret it was. To be able to make Yan Feng kill him at all costs. Seeing that everyone was here, Little Fatty opened his mouth and said, "A while ago, There was a huge commotion in the secret territory. You all should know about it. An ancient demonic beast has escaped from the underground seal. This news, I've heard about it. A few elders nodded. Because the commotion was too big, even if they didn't see it with their own eyes, many people still felt the shocking waves. The news I want to tell you is related to this ancient beast. Because I saw this ancient beast with my own eyes. What? You saw it? This time everyone was shocked. I saw it. Little Fatty said with lingering fear, it was too terrifying. Just the shock waves alone could kill a 7th level honored realm cultivator. Fortunately, it only flew past quickly. Otherwise, if it wanted to attack, that madman and I would have died. Oh? That madman was there too. What was it? Chapter 1152. Heaven-ranking savage beast, Heavenly Netherbird. Heavenly Netherbird, it's actually this savage beast. Rumor has it that it has the bloodline of the great Xia dragon finch. These people were all martial artists from the king families, so they were not unfamiliar with the legends of the Heavenly Netherbird. Therefore, when they found out that there was a Heavenly Netherbird in the secret realm, they were all extremely shocked. So that's how it is. I think the secret realm is named after the Heavenly Netherbird. An older generation figure sighed. They had entered the secret realm many times, but they had never found an ancient savage beast sealed here. It seems that we have to be careful this time. We must avoid that savage beast. The older generation figure was prepared to warn the younger generation not to cause trouble. However, Little Fatty shook his head. No, we can't avoid it. Instead, we have to find it. What? You want to provoke that savage beast? Do you want to die? An elder fumed. Little Fatty smiled bitterly. Of course I want to die. I also know how powerful that savage beast is. However, we have to find that savage beast because the Heavenly Netherbird is really heading towards a certain place. A place? Where? The core area of the secret realm. The core area. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and then sucked in a breath of cold air. This news was too shocking. They knew that the secret realm was huge, but they didn't know how many places there were in the secret realm. However, they guessed that there would definitely be a core area here, and the things there would definitely surpass the other areas. Moreover, they guessed that the core area was left behind by the creator of the secret realm, an ancient peerless expert. Perhaps there would be the legacy and cave of the ancient peerless expert. And now, the Heavenly Netherbird was also heading towards the core area. Jianghu, are you sure about this? An elder from the Merry Woods asked in a deep voice. This news was too important and they had to be sure before they could act. After all, the Heavenly Netherbird was extremely terrifying. If they weren't careful, they could be wiped out. Most likely because I was following behind that madman and saw that he was very excited. I think he must have heard some rumors. Moreover, it turns out that my guess was right. That's because that madman continued to chase after the Heavenly Netherbird. I was chasing after him, but he discovered me halfway, so he chased me all the way. Hearing this, everyone basically believed it. The Palace of Gods of War was also a king clan. Maybe they knew some kind of secret. And judging from the madman's reaction, it was very likely that he knew. Let's work together, that place isn't something one or two of us can break through, Marywood's elder said to Murong Qingqing. Agreed. Murong Qingqing nodded. She also knew that the core area was extremely dangerous, so it was necessary to work together. Next, the two families began to carefully research various countermeasures. On the other side, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui had also shaken off Yanfeng's pursuit and were rapidly traversing through the forest. Then they adjusted their route and chased after the Heavenly Netherbird. However, this time they were very careful. Furthermore, they were not in a hurry. They knew that the two of them were not the only ones chasing after them. There was also the powerful Yanfeng. They had to make sure it was safe before they could go on their way. On top of a green mountain, the two of them sat cross-legged. They had just traveled for a day, so they were preparing to rest and cultivate for the next day. And now, Lin Xian was fully focused on comprehending the sword technique he had comprehended. Previously, Yanfeng's blade technique had given him a lot of inspiration. Moreover, after some research, he was finally able to fuse the concept of wind and metal to create the new returning wind-whisking willow sword. That sword technique was extremely strange. It was soft yet firm, making it impossible to guard against. Not only that, Lin Xian also began to fuse different concepts together to create many other unique sword techniques. It could be said that Lin Xian's battle strength had reached the pinnacle. But now, after this, his battle style had also reached an extremely diverse range. Although his cultivation did not increase, his battle strength had greatly increased. This was a very important step for him. On the side, Zhao Shui was also shocked when she saw various forms of sword qi appearing on Lin Xian's fingertips from time to time. Although she was very talented and had reached the seventh heaven of the Venerable Realm at such a young age, she had to admit that the young man in front of her had the best cultivation talent she had ever seen. In particular, the other party's comprehension ability was simply too terrifying. The sword qi that had fused different concepts shocked her. Fortunately, the two of them were friends. Otherwise, encountering an enemy like Lin Xian would definitely be a headache for any powerful cultivator. On the other hand, Lin Xian was overjoyed. He had the great dragon sword soul as a foundation, so his battle strength was outstanding. Now, with the sword technique that was formed from the fusion of different concepts, its power could be said to be even more terrifying than before. 3 days later, Lin Xian withdrew his palm and slowly exhaled. Now, he could completely fuse the concepts that he had comprehended. This was a big breakthrough for him. Seeing Lin Xian withdraw his hand, Zhao Shui said softly, "It seems that your harvest this time is not small." "It is indeed not small." Lin Xian nodded with satisfaction. "What about you? How's your cultivation progress?" "I've already absorbed a third of the energy in the Dragon Ball. So far, I haven't been affected by the evil aura," Zhao Shui said. "It seems that you're making good progress too." Lin Xian did not expect Zhao Shui to absorb the energy so quickly. However, he did not feel that Zhao Shui's cultivation had increased too much. He thought that the energy should have all flowed into the virtual sky eyes. What exactly was the virtual sky eyes? Was it a cultivation technique or Zhao Shui's martial soul? Lin Xian was very puzzled. However, this was a personal secret, so he was embarrassed to ask. Since the two of them had withdrawn from their cultivation, they did not delay. They got up and quickly went on their way. However, this time the two of them were not as careful as before. Instead, they seemed to be charging forward. This was because Lin Xian was too excited. He wanted to find an enemy to practice with. He wanted to see how powerful the sword technique formed from the fusion of different concepts was. However, it was obviously impossible to find a single human in this vast forest all of a sudden. Therefore, Lin Xian set his sights on monster beasts. Ordinary monster beasts were not worthy of his attention. At least a 5- or 6-star monster general was enough for him to experiment with. Monster beasts of this level were not common, but they were easy to find because their monstrous aura could be felt from far away. Chapter 1153. Sure enough, Zhao Shui soon discovered a demonic beast with the void sky eye above. It was a blood lion. It was huge like a small mountain and was surrounded by a murderous aura. Obviously, it was a powerful beast. "I found it. It's a blood lion with the strength of a 6-star demonic general. Moreover, it seems to be an ancient mutant," Zhao Shui said in a low voice. Hearing this, Lin Xian was overjoyed and hurried forward. Not long after, he felt a thick wave of demonic qi rushing towards him. The aura was too terrifying. The demonic aura turned into a blood-red mist that filled the entire forest. The blood-red mist contained a terrifying demonic aura and was extremely poisonous. Anyone below the 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm would die upon contact. Even a 6th heaven of the Venerable Realm martial artist would lose a lot of their strength if they were accidentally infected by the poisonous aura. Just by looking at the demonic aura, one could tell how terrifying the demonic beast ahead was. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were not afraid at all. Zhao Shui's cultivation was at the 7th heaven of the Venerable Realm, and her strength was far superior to the demonic beast ahead. Therefore, she did not care about the red poisonous creatures at all. Although Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the 5th heaven of the Venerable Realm, his combat strength was extremely powerful and was even more terrifying than a 7th heaven of the Venerable Realm. Therefore, he was not afraid of these poisonous creatures. In the next moment, he used the returning wind-whisking willow sword. A green and golden leaf sword qi revolved around him, forming a powerful sword aura that blocked all the poisonous creatures outside his body. The two of them were like immortal kings as they walked in the poisonous gas without being affected at all. Suddenly, an angry roar that shook the mountains and rivers came from ahead. Obviously, the blood lion had discovered that humans had entered its territory. This made it extremely furious. In the next moment, a blood-red figure flew over quickly. The ground trembled and endless winds blew in all directions. A blood-red lion the size of a house appeared in front of Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes at the sight of the blood lion. He was eager to fight it. The blood lion, on the other hand, revealed a fearful expression because it sensed that the white-clothed woman in front of it was stronger than it. It didn't dare to provoke such a person. Although it was a demonic beast and its physique was stronger than a human's, it still couldn't break through the level suppression. However, what made it feel slightly relieved was that the white-clothed woman in front of it was only looking at it coldly and had no intention of making a move. On the other hand, a young man in green beside him had an eager expression. A trace of contempt appeared in the bloodlion's huge eyes as he looked at the young man in green. As an ancient mutated species, it had long gained sentience, so its intelligence was not inferior to that of ordinary humans. The young man in a green shirt in front of it was only a fifth-layer martial highness, a far cry from it. It could kill such a person with a single slap. It was laughable that the other party dared to use it as a practice partner. It decided that as long as the young man dared to make a move, it would definitely slap him to death and quickly escape without giving the white-clothed woman a chance to make a move. Lin Xian sneered when he saw the mocking look in the bloodlion's eyes. Then he raised his arm and quickly struck out with sword qi. The bloodlion was furious. It didn't expect that the human ant in front of it would really dare to attack it. In the next moment, it didn't hold back and grabbed forward with a huge claw. Immediately, the sky darkened as sand and stones flew everywhere. The entire sky was shrouded by the claw. It had not tasted human flesh for a long time, and today was a good day for it. However, the bloodlion screamed in the next moment. That was because its claw had been pierced. A golden sword light shone like the divine light of the sun and quickly struck its claw. There were also bolts of lightning surrounding the sword light. The entire sword qi was filled with a fierce and violent aura. In an instant, it pierced through the bloodlion's huge claw. Blood splattered in all directions. Not bad, it's stronger than I expected. Lin Xian nodded in satisfaction. This sword qi was formed by the fusion of the metal essence and the thunder essence. The two essences were both very powerful in terms of attack power. Now that they were fused, they displayed extremely strong combat power. In just one move, it injured the 6-star fiend general with a strong physique. This sword is quite powerful. Let's call it the Metal Thunder. Lin Xian was very satisfied. On the other hand, the bloodlion let out a miserable howl as a look of terror appeared in its huge eyes. It didn't expect the human ant in front of it to be so powerful that he could injure it with just a raise of his hand. Could he be a young prodigy of the human race? The bloodlion was not stupid. When it thought of this possibility, it immediately turned and ran. Previously, it attacked because it thought that the human was an ant that it could easily kill. However, now that the situation had changed, it naturally didn't dare to attack again. Trying to run? Seeing the fleeing figure, Lin Xian's smile became even wider. With a wave of his arm, several blue sword qi surged out and rushed forward. The sword qi was blue like a gem and was unusually soft. It was like a ribbon that kept dancing in the air. However, if one were to take a closer look, one would be able to see that there were tiny golden rays of light swimming within the blue light. This time, the sword qi was formed by the fusion of the water and metal essences. There was an unimaginable toughness in the softness. The sword qi danced in the air like water dragons and instantly wrapped around the bloodlion's huge body. The sound of metal clattering could be heard. In an instant, the bloodlion was tied up and fell to the ground. He struggled angrily. The fiend qi on his body was monstrous. The ground around him cracked, forming cracks that spread in all directions. However, no matter how he struggled, the sword qi on his body was like a strong iron chain. It was tightly bound and showed no signs of loosening. This sword shall be called the Immortal Trapping Sword. Lin Xian looked at the scene in front of him and said with satisfaction. Next to him, Zhao Shui was also shocked because the power of Lin Xian's sword technique was beyond her imagination. It seemed that he could perfectly fuse any attribute. In front of him, the bloodlion fell to the ground and trembled. It now understood that the young man in green was definitely not an ordinary human. This was because it didn't believe that an ordinary fifth heaven venerable one could perform such a technique. I misjudged him. I really misjudged him. A look of despair appeared in the bloodlion's eyes. However, the scene that it imagined did not happen. The two humans did not kill it. The young man in green waved his hand, and the four-sword qi on his body quickly disappeared. Lin Xian did not kill it. He withdrew the four-sword qi and quickly left with Zhao Shui. Since they already knew the power of the fused sword skill, it was time to hit the road. However, they had just crossed two mountains when they heard the sound of fighting in front of them. Chapter 1154. The landscape in front of them changed drastically. It was no longer a mountain range but a huge rift valley. It was a bottomless abyss. At that moment, there were several figures fighting fiercely near the huge rift valley. Damn it, our intelligence was wrong. This red-scaled centipede has reached the level of a 7-star demon general. It's an ancient mutated species. It's extremely powerful. Be careful, don't come into contact with its venom. Exclamations could be heard. Brr. After the exclamations of the humans, there was an earth-shattering sound. It was like a demonic sound that pierced through the clouds. The sound was too terrifying. It was far more powerful than the blood lion's roar. Just this sound alone was enough to make the cultivators' blood boil. The weaker cultivators even spat out mouthfuls of blood. Before this sound could be heard, a huge black figure appeared in front of everyone. It was a red-scaled centipede that was hundreds of feet long. It was surrounded by a dense demonic aura. It was obviously a peerless demon. Countless tentacles waved in the air like the hands of a demon. Every strike could split mountains and rivers. What a terrifying demonic aura. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were shocked when they saw this. The centipede in front of them was too terrifying. Compared to it, the blood lion was like a docile kitten. Not only did they see a terrifying demonic beast, but they also saw a group of people. There were about 20 people in the group. 2 of them were 7th-level supremacies, while the rest were 6th-level supremacies. The rest were 5th-level supremacies. This force was extremely terrifying. They could wipe out a large area. However, they were not strong enough to deal with this peerless beast. Dodge its tentacle attack. A 7th-level supremacies roared. The void trembled. Countless demonic claws waved in the air like black lightning. Instantly, a few screams were heard. A few 5th-level supremacies could not dodge at all and were instantly pierced by the demonic claws. In fact, 2 6th-level supremacies did not manage to escape. Damn beast. Another 7th-level supremacies was furious. He waved the azure sword in his hand and a sword chi slashed forward. Clang, clang, clang. These sword chis all slashed onto the red-scaled centipede's body, causing countless sparks to fly. The surrounding ground was also torn apart by the aftershock, forming one abyss after another. However, even though the sword chi was powerful, it only managed to push the red phosphorus centipede back. It did not manage to break the scales on its body. This only angered the red phosphorus centipede even more. It let out an angry roar, opened its bloody mouth and spat out a black mist. The fog was pitch black, accompanied by ghostly wails and howls. There were also layers of ghostly figures floating around. In an instant, it enveloped many martial artists. Immediately, those martial artists let out miserable howls. Set up the formation, quickly set up the formation. The 2 7th-level venerables shouted madly. Instantly, the surviving 6th-level venerables came to their side and quickly formed a formation. After forming the formation, the combat power of these people became stronger and they quickly resisted the red phosphorus centipede. In the distance, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui watched this scene with flickering eyes. Are we going to attack? Zhao Shui asked. There were many good things on the red phosphorus centipede. Yes, we are. However, we are not going to attack it. Lin Xian said, use your void sky eyes to check if there is a secret cave nearby. These people are no match for the red phosphorus centipede, but they are still unwilling to leave. This means that there must be something nearby that is attracting them. Even in the face of such danger, they are unwilling to give up. If it is not a cave, then it should be some kind of supreme-grade spiritual herb. Lin Xian guessed. Zhao Shui nodded. Then, she used her void sky eyes to quickly check the surroundings of the Grand Canyon. I found it. There is indeed a cave below the Grand Canyon. Moreover, there was a rich spiritual energy in the cave, and countless rays of light were shining in the cave. It is there. Lin Xian smiled. Let's go down and take a look. Then, the 2 of them moved and quickly flew down the Grand Canyon from the other side. Who is it? The 2 7th-level supremacies who were fighting frowned and shouted coldly. In the next moment, they saw 2 figures flying down the canyon at high speed like ghosts. Damn it, get back here. One of the 7th-level supremacies was enraged and quickly slashed out a ray of sword chi. However, the sharp sword chi slashed through the air and only left a deep crack in the ground. The 2 figures quickly dodged. Ah, damn it. Those people were completely enraged. They were risking their lives to pin down the primordial ferocious beast, but someone wanted to take advantage of the situation and sneak down to take the treasure. How could they tolerate this? I will go and kill him. A middle-aged bald man said. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. This bald man's cultivation was at the 7th level and he was one of the 2 experts here. If you leave, our array will not be able to last. We will not be able to resist the red phosphorus centipede. We might even be wiped out. The other gray-haired old man who was at the 7th level said. Then what should we do? Are we just going to watch as the treasure is taken away? The middle-aged bald man was unwilling. The other 6th level supremacies were also unwilling. Don't worry, it's not that easy to take the treasure. The gray-haired old man sneered. The bottom of the Grand Canyon is filled with poisonous gas. Those below the 7th level supremacies cannot resist it. Even as 7th level supremacies have to be careful. Even if the 2 of them can resist the poisonous gas and enter the treasure cave, they will be extremely weak by the time they take the treasure. When the time comes, we will attack and quickly snatch the treasure from their hands. Then we will leave quickly. This is much easier than taking the treasure ourselves. Moreover, judging from the aura of the 2 figures, one of them is at the 7th level supremacies while the other is only at the 5th level supremacies. Such a lineup will not be able to defeat us. When the time comes, it will be easy to snatch the treasure from their hands. Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators revealed sinister smiles. Alright, let the 2 of them take the treasure first. When they come out, the treasure will be ours. Thinking of this, everyone joined forces again to restrain the red phosphorus centipede. On the other side, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui dodged the sword qi and sped up again. They quickly entered the Grand Canyon. As soon as they entered the Grand Canyon, they felt wisps of black fog surging towards them. The black fog was extremely poisonous. Cultivators below the 7th level supremacies could not resist it at all. Even as 7th level supremacies would be extremely weak if they inhaled it. Fortunately, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were not ordinary people. They had extraordinary means. In an instant, Lin Xian propped up his red lotus armor. Golden vortexes spun around Zhao Shui and absorbed all the surrounding fog. Not only that, they also felt the existence of 2 soul powers. It was as if they were watching their every move. Chapter 1155. It seems that we are being watched, Zhao Shui said in a low voice. It should be the 2 7th level honorables above. It seems that they know our purpose. Lin Xian also frowned. I guess they are waiting for us to take out the treasure before taking action. What a good idea. Lin Xian sneered. Don't use your full strength. Just resist the black fog. Now that someone was watching them, they naturally would not reveal their trump card. What they needed to do was to hide their strength and deceive the 2 7th level honorables above. In this way it would be hard to say who would be the one to take the treasure. Then Lin Xian activated the red lotus armor to hide the blazing light on it and make it less dazzling. At this moment, the red lotus armor looked like an ordinary armor, but its power was not reduced at all. Zhao Shui's body also emitted light, forming a circular light screen that covered the golden vortex. Finally, the 2 of them flew down carefully. The canyon was very deep, as if it was bottomless. The cave was also in the underground abyss. Therefore, after flying for a while, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui got rid of the 2 honorable surveillance. Therefore, in the next moment, they did not hold back and used their full strength again to rush down quickly. A green sword light appeared on Lin Xian's body. It was extremely sharp and cut open the green fog. Countless gusts of wind formed around him and blew away the surrounding black fog. Although the deeper they went, the more terrifying the black poisonous gas was. Lin Xian used the Great Dragon Sword Soul and Wind concept to increase their speed by several times. At such a fast speed they quickly sensed the cave below. What a rich spiritual energy. We are almost there. The 2 of them sensed the rich spiritual energy coming from below and saw a light spot not far below. It should be the light from the treasure in the cave. In the next moment, the 2 of them turned around and arrived in front of the cave. Let's go in and take a look. Without any hesitation, the 2 of them quickly entered the cave. Compared to the pitch-black fog outside, it was a completely different world. Lin Xian dashed towards the deepest part of the cave. Soon, his body shook and his face was filled with ecstasy. Purple thunder divine bamboo. Further ahead, there was a bamboo that was as tall as a person. It was purple all over like a sparkling purple jade. On top of it, purple lightning circled around it, emitting the power of lightning that made one's heart tremble. Just the power of the lightning was enough to make Zhao Shui take notice. Looking at the surging power of lightning, this purple thunder divine bamboo was at least 5,000 years old. Lin Xian was also ecstatic in his heart. He himself cultivated thunder and lightning. If he could absorb the thunder and lightning on the purple thunder divine bamboo, it would definitely increase his cultivation and strength by a large margin. Not only that, but the violet thunder divine bamboo not only contained powerful lightning energy, it was also incomparably hard. It was the best material for making weapons. For example, a 5,000-year-old purple thunder god tribe member could be used to make earth-grade weapons. Lin Xian never imagined that he would encounter such a precious item here. Moreover, it was so old. This was definitely a rare treasure. But in the next moment he revealed a puzzled expression. This was because he was only 20 meters away from the purple thunder divine bamboo, but he still couldn't feel a trace of the power of lightning. This made him extremely puzzled. With such a terrifying purple thunder divine bamboo, the surrounding 100 miles would probably be filled with boundless violent power of lightning. But he was so close and still so safe. This was too strange. Finally, Lin Xian quickly looked around. As expected, there was a circle of black vines near the purple thunder divine bamboo. They formed an arc that completely surrounded the purple thunder god lord. This black wooden stake was underground. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to discover it. Dark thunder wood. Lin Xian was pleasantly surprised. He had discovered another treasure. This dark thunder wood was able to isolate the power of lightning. Moreover, it had the effect of nourishing the soul and warding off evil spirits. Could be called extremely mystical. For this purple thunder divine bamboo to be able to block a 5,000-year-old purple thunder divine bamboo, it was absolutely extraordinary. Zhao Shui, this dark wood can nourish the soul and also ward off evil spirits. How about I give it to you? Sure. Zhao Shui nodded. She was also extremely moved by the dark wood. This was because this thing could help her suppress the evil energy within the dragon pearl. Moreover, it could stabilize her heaven void eye. Thus, this thing was extremely useful to her. The two people discussed and then prepared to take the treasure. According to Lin Xian's plan, he would take the purple thunder divine bamboo first and then Zhao Shui would take the dark wood. But at this time Zero suddenly spoke up. Boy, you'd best take out this purple thunder divine bamboo along with the roots. What are you going to do with that? Lin Xian was stunned. Originally, he only wanted to take away the branches above the roots and leave the roots here so that they could grow again. Normally, cultivators would do this when picking natural treasures. They would leave the roots so that they could grow again in the future. Thus, Lin Xian was very puzzled by Zero's request. Don't worry, I don't want to destroy the purple thunder divine bamboo. I just think that this thing can be planted somewhere else. Somewhere else? What place? Lin Xian frowned. If this thing was taken to the outside world, it would definitely cause a group of 7th level supremacies to go crazy. He didn't want to be chased by a group of people all day. Boy, do you know what kind of space I'm in? If you plant it in this space, you will obtain unexpected results. Zero coldly said. Space. Lin Xian was stunned. Then he slapped his head. Only now did he remember that Zero was in the mysterious small sword inside his body. It was indeed a special space. Moreover, that space was incomparably mysterious. After pondering for a moment, Lin Xian nodded in agreement. He knew that Zero must have its reasons for asking. Thus, in the next moment he and Zero took action together. They pulled out the purple thunder divine bamboo along with the soil and quickly planted it in the mysterious small sword space. The purple thunder divine bamboo suddenly appeared in the mysterious small sword and was planted to the side. Instantly, the god race member trembled as if it was extremely excited. In fact, the lightning on it became even more resplendent. It's so magical. Lin Xian's eyes widened. He didn't expect that the purple thunder divine bamboo would have such obvious changes as soon as it was planted. Of course, the space in your body is very mysterious. Even I can't see through it. Zero said in a deep voice. You can't see through it either? Lin Xian was surprised. He knew that Zero had an extraordinary background and knew many secrets. However, even Zero couldn't see through it. Could it be that the mysterious space in his body had some shocking secret? Chapter 1156. However, he could only see about 100 meters ahead of him. There was a towering tree about 100 meters ahead of him. However, it had already withered. Wine Lord used to sit under the tree and drink. Further ahead was a vast expanse of whiteness. Lin Xian could not see through it at all. He had originally thought that the space inside was only about 100 meters in size. However, it seemed that this was not the case. Behind the white fog there might be a wider space. However, he could not see through it at all. This was because his soul power could not penetrate the chaotic fog. As for his real body, he had entered once with Wine Lord's help. Other than that, he could not enter at all. My cultivation is still not enough. Lin Xian exited the mysterious space. He decided that when his cultivation was strong enough, he would take a closer look. However, it was not the time yet. Let's go. Lin Xian exited the space in his body and flew out of the cave. Soon the two of them were out of the cave. In the beginning they moved forward quickly. When they were within the range of the soul power of the two 7th level honorables, they hid their strength again and flew upwards slowly. Everyone pay attention. The two of them are coming up. The bald man who was fighting above said to the martial artists beside him. I can sense a lot of strange auras from them. I think they must have obtained some treasures. The gray-haired old man snorted. It seems that the two of them are quite lucky. Even the 5th level kid did not die. So what? Even if he can avoid the poisonous fog below, he can't avoid our attacks. The other 6th level honorable sneered. However, the other 7th level honorable is not to be underestimated. The bald man frowned. It's fine. We have already made preparations. When the two of them come up, we will lure the red-scaled centipede over. When the time comes, we will take advantage of the chaos and take down those people together. When the surrounding people heard the gray-haired old man's suggestion, they were instantly filled with confidence. Not long after, the gray-haired old man roared, "They are here." Sure enough, there were two figures flying over from the bottom of the canyon. These two figures were naturally Lin Xian and Zhao Shui. However, as soon as they came ashore, they were fiercely attacked. The two of them snorted and quickly used their movement techniques to dodge the attacks. But soon after, they frowned. That was because the two 7th level venerables had already led their people over. They weren't worried about that. What they were worried about was that those people would attract the red-scaled centipede. Damn it, these guys are trying to shift the blame. Zhao Shui's face was cold. Not necessarily. I don't think the red-scaled centipede was attracted by them. Instead, it seems to be after the treasure. Lin Xian's expression was grave. Lin Xian's guess was right. The red-scaled centipede was indeed here for the treasure. It waved its hundreds of tentacles and quickly slithered through the air. His pitch-black eyes emitted an ice-cold killing intent as he let out a roar that tore apart the heavens and earth. He was furious because the other party had snatched his Purple Thunder Divine Bamboo. He had discovered the Purple Thunder Divine Bamboo a few decades ago. Moreover, he had been guarding it nearby. He wanted to let the Purple Thunder Divine Bamboo grow for a few more years until it reached 6,000 years old. At that time, he would devour the Purple Thunder Divine Bamboo. That would greatly increase his strength. At that time, he would even possess the power of thunder and be able to control thunder and lightning. However, all of this had been destroyed by the two humans in front of him. Especially the young man in green. He could sense the thick aura of the Purple Thunder Divine Bamboo from him. This made him furious. The bald man, the gray-robed elder, and the others naturally sensed the red-scaled centipede's anger and immediately sneered. It seems that we don't need to use our tentacles. That bastard is already furious. Just watch. Those two thieves definitely won't be able to escape. The treasure will definitely be ours. The group sneered. Zhao Shui, use your void sky eyes and try your best to control the red-scaled centipede. Leave the rest to me. At this critical moment, Lin Xian said in a low voice. Don't worry. It might be troublesome to defeat it, but it's easy to confuse it. With that, Zhao Shui formed a seal with her hands and the void sky eyes quickly formed in the air. A huge eye appeared in the void and shot out a ray of gray light, which quickly entered the red phosphor centipede's eye. Instantly, the red-scaled centipede's body stiffened and even its movements became sluggish. Then, a scarlet color appeared in the huge eye and the demonic aura around its body suddenly surged and became extremely chaotic. Damn it, this bastard is going berserk. The bald man and the gray-robed elder's expressions changed drastically and they quickly fled in all directions. They had never imagined that the red-scaled centipede would go berserk in advance. This was simply too strange. Elder, look up. A 6th rank supremacy screamed. Then everyone looked up at the sky and were instantly shocked. This was because they saw a huge eye condensed in the clouds and looking down on the world. Moreover, there was a ray of gray light in the eye that seemed to be controlling the black centipede. That's an eye technique. The bald man was shocked. How could this be? She could actually control an ancient demonic beast? He was simply too shocked. He had never imagined that she would be a 7th rank supremacy at such a young age. Not only that, but she could also control an ancient demonic beast in such a short time. They had seen beast taming and illusion techniques before, but they had never seen anyone who could control an ancient demonic beast in an instant. Moreover, it was a 7-star demonic beast. Boom boom boom. Behind them, the red-scaled centipede went berserk and countless tentacles attacked in all directions. Instantly, a few 6th rank supremacies were severely injured and were sent flying. No, she's not controlling the demonic beast. She's only affecting this bastard. We still have a chance. The gray-robed elder's eyes lit up and he shouted. Listen to my orders. Escape in all directions. Don't gather together. It was obvious that although the red-scaled centipede was berserk, its attacks were very scattered and did not have a clear target. Obviously, this was a manifestation of its mental disorder. In other words, the lady in white in front of them was not truly controlling this ancient demonic beast. Hearing the gray-robed elder's words, the surrounding martial artists did not dare to stay and fled in all directions. Treasures were no longer important. Their lives were the most important thing now. Trying to escape? Seeing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He waved his arm and a ray of blue sword chi shot out quickly. The sword chi expanded in the wind and turned into a green sword chi that was a few hundred feet long. It then slashed forward quickly. Immortal trapping sword. Lin Xian used a sword technique that he had just comprehended and slashed forward quickly. In an instant, the green sword chi turned into a chain and completely covered the space in front of them. Clang, clang, clang. Those martial artists who were escaping collided with the sword chi and were quickly pushed back. Chapter 1157. What? How is this possible? Initially, these people were disdainful when they saw the other party make a move. This was because the person who had made the move wasn't the white-robed lady, but another fifth-level martial artist youth. They didn't take this person's move seriously at all. However, they soon realized that they were wrong. This was because they couldn't break the sword chi that the other party had used. Not only that, but they were also sent flying back. Damn it. The bald man and the gray-haired old man were also furious when they saw this scene. This was because several sixth-level venerables had been killed by the red phosphorus centipede in an instant. These people were originally able to escape, but it was because of that sword chi that they were forced back. The two of them glared at Lin Xian with murderous intent in their eyes. They had originally wanted to kill him and seize the treasure, but they hadn't expected the other party's strength to exceed their expectations. Now, not only had they failed to seize the treasure, but they had also suffered heavy losses. Damn it, come over here. Let's charge out together. The two 7th-level venerables roared crazily. They had discovered that only they could break the aqua-blue sword chi. The other 6th-level venerables couldn't break it at all. Therefore, they had called back the martialists who had fled in all directions and had them gather together. The gray-haired old man wanted to slap himself when he thought of the strategy of letting everyone escape separately. This was because during the process of gathering, a few more 6th-level venerables had been infected by the poison and quickly turned into a pile of bones. These were all their elites, but they had died in vain. They were heartbroken and couldn't accept this at all. Finally, when everyone had gathered by their side, the two 7th-level venerables quickly split the sword screen in front of them and let everyone out. They had escaped from a hopeless situation, but there was no joy on their faces. This was because there were only 7 or 8 people left in the original team of 20 to 30 people. More than half of them had died before they had managed to escape. However, the culprit of all this was the young man and woman in front of them. Catch them. They definitely couldn't let them escape. The two 7th-level venerables gritted their teeth. They swore that they would tear the other party into pieces. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui wouldn't sit still and wait for death. The two of them turned into 2 streaks of lightning and quickly flew into the distance. As for the pursuit behind them, they did not care at all, as their movement techniques were extremely special. Even a 7th-level venerate might not be able to catch up to them. However, after running for a while, they could still hear angry roars coming from behind, which surprised the two of them. How did they catch up? Lin Xian turned around in confusion. Then he saw that the two 7th-level supremacies were not flying. Instead, they were sitting on a small spirit boat. The spirit boat was very small, only 2 meters in diameter. There were exquisite patterns carved on it. At this moment, it was like a shooting star, blooming with a dazzling light as it quickly flew forward. So fast. Lin Xian was astonished. He realized that the speed of the spirit boat was not any slower than the shoes on little Fatty's feet. In fact, he might even be stronger than that. Come to think of it, this should also be a type of supreme-grade artifact that could assist in flight. If they relied on their movement techniques, the two 7th-level supremacies would not be able to catch up to Lin Xian and Zhao Shui at all. However, it was different now. With the help of this special spirit boat, their speed was extremely fast and they were catching up to Lin Xian and little Fatty bit by bit. Despicable thief, quickly hand over the Dharma treasure and I will spare your life. Otherwise you're dead. The bald man shouted coldly. Beside him, the gray-haired old man also said coldly, don't make a mistake. Although the treasure is good, you need to be alive to enjoy it. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some special weapons. You are not qualified to do so in front of us. Say that when you catch up. Lin Xian snorted coldly and sped up again. You are courting death. Stubborn. Behind them, the two 7th-level supremacies snorted coldly. At the same time, they quickly injected their spiritual power into the spirit boat. Immediately, the spirit boat emitted a dazzling light and sped up as well. Furthermore, this time not only did the two of them catch up, but they also attacked. A long sword appeared in the gray-haired old man's hand and he quickly slashed out a ray of sword chi. Immediately, the sword chi was like a raging flame. With a sharp and blazing aura, it quickly slashed forward. Fire-based sword chi? Lin Xian's eyes lit up. With a wave of his arm, a blue sword chi rushed forward. Water-based? How dare a 5th-level brat compete with him in terms of attributes? The gray-haired old man sneered disdainfully. Water and fire are mutually exclusive. It is impossible to say which of the two attributes is stronger. However, he was a 7th-level supremacy and his opponent was only a 5th-level supremacy. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Therefore, the gray-haired old man did not take Lin Xian's sword chi seriously at all. Boom. In the next moment, his face turned extremely ugly. That was because the blue sword chi was flying towards him rapidly. Then, it exploded quickly and the power of lightning surged rapidly. The flaming sword chi that he had unleashed was completely destroyed by the power of lightning. What? The power of lightning? The gray-haired old man was stunned. He clearly saw the water-based sword chi just now. Why did the power of lightning appear now? Could it be that this brat has dual attributes? Thinking of this, his face turned gloomy. Brat, no wonder you are so arrogant. It turns out that you have comprehended dual attributes. However, these things are useless in front of me. You are dead meat today. The gray-haired old man sneered. I only used 30% of my strength just now. Next, I will let you know what despair is. Is that so? It seems that you have us, Lin Xian said coldly. Of course, no matter what, you only have one 7th-level supremacy and we have two. Brat, I advise you to hand over the treasure obediently. Perhaps you can leave with a complete corpse. Otherwise, you will die without a burial ground. Is that so? I think you are the unlucky ones. I originally wanted to let you go, but since you came to die, don't blame me. However, if you can obediently hand over the spirit boat under your feet, I might spare your lives. Lin Xian's expression was cold. You are courting death. How dare you? Two angry roars were heard. Arrogant brat, you will soon pay the price for your ignorance. The gray-haired old man and the bald man were furious. They had never been provoked like this before. Moreover, the person who provoked them was merely a 5th-level supremacy brat. Attack! The gray-haired old man roared angrily. Then he charged towards Zhao Shui while the bald man smiled ferociously and blocked Lin Xian. Brat, let me send you on your way today. Chapter 1158. Lin Xian did not say anything else. Instead he made his move. He pointed his finger and his fingertip was like a rainbow that surged out quickly. Like a sudden clap of thunder, the sword chi quickly arrived in front of the bald man. Today I'll let you know what true strength is. Kid, watch carefully. The bald man sneered disdainfully. Then he stretched out his palm and grabbed forward. The palm shone with golden light and was extremely agile. It was like a Buddha. Wherever it passed, the entire void shattered. It was as if it wanted to grab Lin Xian. Crack, 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 crack. The sword chi broke into several pieces in the palm. Haha, kid, did you see that? Your attack is nothing in front of me. The bald man sneered. I'll catch you and then crush your bones one by one. The golden palm covered the sky and then quickly moved towards Lin Xian. I'd like to see how you're going to crush my bones. Lin Xian's expression was cold. In the next moment he pulled out the Lone Star sword from behind him and slashed forward. With a clang, Lin Xian pulled out the Lone Star sword and slashed forward. This time he did not hold back. The great dragon sword soul circulated in his body. At the same time he circulated the metal and lightning concepts and quickly fused them. The sword chi's combat power was extremely strong. The sword chi was like a bolt of lightning that quickly streaked across the sky. Then, the sword chi ruthlessly landed on the heavenly palm. Insignificant. Watch how I'll break you. The bald man laughed savagely. He had already shattered a strand of Lin Xian's sword chi earlier, so he didn't take this strand of sword chi seriously at all. Because in his opinion, what kind of powerful sword chi could a little thief at the 5th heavenly layer display? Even if Lin Xian used all his strength, he would not be able to hurt him. However, in the next moment, his smug expression disappeared. A look of horror appeared on his face. In the end, his entire body began to tremble. A heart-wrenching pain came from his palm. In the next moment, the bald man screamed and quickly retracted his palm. Suddenly, the huge palm that covered the sky disappeared, leaving behind a series of blood flowers in the sky and the bald man's miserable shrieks. What? Impossible. At the side, the gray-haired old man who was fighting fiercely with Zhao Shui also abruptly turned his head when he heard this voice. The next moment, his scalp went numb and his face was full of shock, because he saw the most unbelievable scene. The bald man's palm was split open, revealing eerie white bones. Endless blood flowed, dyeing the earth red. They were stupefied, truly stupefied, because they did not believe that a fifth heavenly layer venerable could injure the bald man. This was simply unheard of. However, it was happening right before his eyes. The bald man was even more shocked. Originally, he didn't put the other party in his eyes, but he didn't expect that the other party's sword chi would be completely different from the previous one. It was truly too fierce, making him tremble incomparably, unable to defend at all. Damn it! How is this possible? How can this brat have such a powerful combat strength? He quickly stopped his wound, his eyes full of shock. Impossible. How can a fifth heavenly layer brat injure me? The bald man's eyes were filled with madness. Then he stared at the long sword in Lin Xian's hand. Half Earth-rank treasure. It's actually a half Earth-rank treasure. No wonder it can injure me. The bald man seemed to have grasped the key point, then revealed a cruel smile. Brat, I admit that I was careless just now and underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have a half Earth-rank treasure. But this time I won't give you a chance. After saying that, he shouted coldly, and a clanging sound suddenly came from his body. Then a set of black armor appeared on his body, wrapping around his body. With the supreme-grade armor and my defense, I don't believe that your half Earth-rank treasure can break through my defense. Once you lose your weapon, you're just an ant in front of me. I'm going to crush you bit by bit. The bald man laughed sinisterly, then quickly rushed over. His palm emitted a blazing light, and strange runes solidified in his palm, emitting a terrifying energy. Then he suddenly slammed forward. 7 Evils Divine Light Palm. With a slap, a terrifying palm print pressed forward, causing the entire void to collapse. Brat die. The bald man was ferocious. On the side, the gray-haired old man saw this and sneered. Seeing the bald man go all out, he was completely relieved. Then he snorted and began to attack Zhao Shui with all his might. Zhao Shui's expression was cold, like a fairy, and she quickly fought with the gray-haired old man. On the other side, Lin Xian faced the terrifying palm shadow, his eyes shining brightly. He stood in the void, releasing sword chi all over his body, shining brightly. Then he waved the Lone Star sword and slashed out sword chi. Like a shocking rainbow, it was extremely dazzling and flew forward quickly. The terrifying sword chi collided with the resplendent palm, causing a loud boom. Rays of light shot out in all directions, and the entire sky was enveloped in a dazzling red glow. Dang 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 dang. Terrifying sounds of collisions rang out. Every sound shattered a mountain below. However, in just a moment, the bald man let out another scream. His palm shadow was shattered once again, cut into hundreds of pieces by the sword chi. Then, like a meteor, it disappeared into the sky. Then the sword chi shot out like a bolt of lightning and landed on his body. The bald man felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards. One of the sword chi was extremely sharp, directly hitting his right palm and tearing his armor apart. No. The bald man's pupils shrank as he screamed. He retreated frantically, but the sword chi was faster than him. With a flash of light, his entire right arm was cut off. What? This is impossible. When the few Sixth Heaven Venerables who had rushed over saw this scene, they immediately screamed in horror. They were in the same group as the bald man, but they were slower, so they had only arrived at the scene now. They were here to provide support, but the scene just now had shocked them. That baldy was their Lord Elder, a dignified 7th-level Venerable. His arm had been cut off, and the culprit was only a 5th Heaven Venerable's brat. They would never have dreamed of such a thing happening. Everyone's scalps went numb and they turned to run. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, several immortal trapping swords flew out of his palm and immediately tied up the 6th Heaven Venerables. After doing that, he turned his head again and looked at the bald man. Misunderstanding. I think it's a misunderstanding. The bald man covered his wound with a ferocious expression, and cold sweat flowed down his forehead. Chapter 1159. Although he was infuriated by the loss of an arm, he wanted nothing more than to kill the young man in front of him. However, the young man's combat strength was too shocking, which made him fearful. He was worried that if he continued to fight, it would not be as simple as losing an arm. He might very well lose his life here. Therefore he decided to pretend to beg for mercy first and then find someone to kill the young man. He had to take revenge for the loss of his arm and the treasure. Although Lin Xian could not read minds, he knew what the bald man was planning when he saw the bald man's gaze. Immediately, the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. I can feel your killing intent towards me, so I can't let you go. Kid, don't go too far. Hearing Lin Xian's words, the bald man was furious. It was already embarrassing for a 7th-level supremacy to beg for mercy from a 5th-level supremacy. However, the young man did not agree. This made him so angry that his entire body trembled. Kid, don't think that you can really kill me just because you cut off an arm. If you force me into a corner and I use some secret techniques, you won't be able to do anything to me. When the time comes, you might lose your life for nothing. I advise you to think carefully. The bald man gritted his teeth and said. In his heart, he wanted nothing more than to kill the young man immediately. However, he knew that it was impossible for him to do that in his current state. Therefore he could only threaten the young man. However, Lin Xian ignored his threats. He held the Lone Star Sword tightly and walked forward step by step. Lin Xian held the Lone Star Sword and walked forward step by step. Sword chi flickered under his feet with every step he took. He was like a sword immortal, extremely fierce. Kid, you're courting death. Seeing Lin Xian approaching step by step, the bald man was completely enraged. His entire person became extremely ferocious. He did not expect the young man to ignore his threats and not accept his reconciliation. This made him extremely angry. Kid, there are some things that need to be stopped. Since you're arrogant and ignorant, I'll kill you even if I have to exhaust my source energy. Soon you'll know how foolish your decision is. The bald man was furious. He decided to use some powerful secret techniques to deal with this brat. From the battle just now, he knew that although his opponent was a 5th Heaven Venerable Realm expert, his battle prowess was even stronger than his own. So now he didn't intend to continue fighting with him. Even though he had some secret techniques, once he used them, the consequences would be even more terrifying than losing an arm. Therefore, it was best not to use those secret techniques if possible. But now the other party was pressuring him step by step, wanting to take his life. He had no choice but to go all out. With a furious roar, the blood and chi in the bald man's body suddenly boiled and started to burn. Streaks of blood-red light rushed out of his body and circled around the surface of his body. It was as bright as a scarlet sunset. In the next moment his aura changed. It became even more powerful, violent, and incomparably sharp. Not only that, but the bald man's eyes also became incomparably red, and his entire body became smaller than before. He could clearly feel that the bald man's strength had increased by a large margin compared to before. Whoosh! With a stomp of his foot, the bald man rushed out like a meteor and arrived in front of Lin Xian in an instant. A blood-red fist, carrying a biting cold killing intent, shook the void and quickly blasted towards Lin Xian. If anyone saw this, they would definitely scream in shock. This was because the current bald man was not just a little bit stronger than before. It seemed that the other party really did have a secret technique that could increase his battle prowess for a short period of time. Lin Xian frowned, and a dazzling sword light burst out from his eyes, instantly tearing the void in front of him apart. In the next moment, a dragon-shaped sword chi slashed out. Its entire body was flickering with the light of thunder and fire, and it quickly pierced forward. The entire void flashed as if the sun had exploded. Boundless sword chi quickly swept across the land, causing everything in the surroundings to tremble. In the next moment, Lin Xian withdrew his sword and retreated. However, the bald man stopped in midair. Then, his body split open from the middle and blood splattered all over the ground. The bald man's eyes were filled with horror because he did not believe that Lin Xian could kill him in one move. Beside him, the gray-haired old man naturally saw the scene as well. His scalp went numb and his eyes were filled with horror. Previously, when the bald man used the secret skill, he was relieved because he knew that the secret skill could definitely increase the bald man's cultivation by a large margin. He thought that it would not be a problem to deal with a young boy. However, he did not expect that the bald man who used the secret skill would be killed in one move. This situation was like a bolt of thunder that struck him unconscious. Who is this young man? Why is he so powerful? The gray-haired old man was terrified. No, he's definitely not a fifth heaven supremacy. Yes, he must be hiding his cultivation. That must be it. The gray-haired old man's face was extremely ugly. In the next moment he turned around and fled because he did not dare to stop. Otherwise he would end up in a worse state than the bald man. Trying to leave? Zhao Shui snorted coldly, then raised her hand and formed a seal. Immediately, the void eye above her emitted a ball of green light. Then, like a divine spear of destruction, it directly pierced through the gray-haired old man. The gray-haired old man's pupils gradually dilated, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect that the white-clothed woman he was fighting would actually possess such terrifying strength. She was actually able to kill him with a raise of her hand. If he was given another chance, he would definitely not have set his sights on Lin Xian and Lin Xian. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Thump. The gray-haired old man's corpse fell from the sky and crashed heavily on the ground. After dealing with her opponent in one move, Zhao Shui withdrew the void eye and turned to look at Lin Xian. Meanwhile, Lin Xian had also taken the bald man's storage ring. His figure flashed and he arrived beside Zhao Shui. In the next moment he waved his arm and a 2-meter-long white jade spiritual boat appeared in front of him. The spiritual boat was pure white and emitted a faint light. On it there were lines of mysterious inscriptions. At this moment, the dark red divine dragon also poked its head out and looked at the white jade spiritual boat. It could not stop praising it. Boy, this is good stuff. I didn't expect that there would be such a person in the Jianghu continent who could comprehend inscriptions so thoroughly. Oh, it's not an ancient treasure? Lin Xian was surprised. He saw that the white jade spiritual boat was extremely fast and thought that it should have been left behind by an ancient expert. He did not expect it to be made by a modern person. It's not an ancient treasure. Because looking at the traces of inscriptions, it should have been completed in the past 100 years. Obviously, it should have been made by a master blacksmith of this continent, said the dark red divine dragon. Lin Xian nodded, then his figure flashed and he entered the white jade spiritual boat. Zhao Shui also smiled faintly and entered as well. She stood side by side with Lin Xian. Let's give it a try. Lin Xian's spiritual energy surged out from his body and poured into the white jade spiritual boat. Suddenly, the white jade spiritual boat emitted a dazzling light and turned into a shocking rainbow as it rushed out. Chapter 1160. In a quiet place, Lin Xian sat cross-legged and quickly organized the bald man's storage ring. He moved all the useful things into his white bone ring. Then, Lin Xian closed his eyes and probed the mysterious space in his body with his soul power. In the next moment he saw the purple thunder divine bamboo growing in the mysterious space. In just one day the lightning energy on the purple thunder divine bamboo was much stronger than before. It can't be right? Is this place so magical? Looking at the changes in the purple thunder divine bamboo, Lin Xian was shocked. The effects were beyond his imagination. Of course. Planting here for a day is equivalent to 10 years in the outside world. Zero's cold voice sounded from the thousand-beast cauldron. 10 years. Lin Xian was shocked. He knew that Zero wasn't lying because he had seen the purple thunder divine bamboo grow stronger with his own eyes. It seems like I can get more spiritual herbs to plant here in the future. Lin Xian rubbed his chin and nodded. Kid, you're thinking too much. It's because the purple thunder divine bamboo is special that it can withstand the energy in this mysterious space. If it were any other plant, it would definitely explode. Zero said coldly. Okay. Lin Xian scratched his head. He realized that sometimes, it wasn't a good thing to make the soil too strong. Lin Xian dismissed the idea of transplanting the spiritual herbs and looked at the purple thunder divine bamboo again. Since it could grow better here, Lin Xian didn't need to consume the complete purple thunder divine bamboo in advance. However, he wouldn't waste it. In the next moment he plucked a few leaves from the purple thunder divine bamboo and left the mysterious space. Lin Xian left the mysterious space after plucking some leaves from the purple thunder divine bamboo. Then he opened his eyes and a few flashing purple leaves appeared in his hand. The leaves were long and narrow, about the size of a finger. Each leaf was crystal clear, like a peerless treasure. There were streaks of purple lightning on them that kept shuttling back and forth. Lin Xian put the extra leaves into his storage ring, leaving only 2 which he held in each of his hands. Then he slowly closed his eyes and began to absorb the pure power of lightning on the leaves. Bolts of lightning power were absorbed by him, and gradually, a ring of purple lightning surrounded Lin Xian's body, flashing continuously in the air. After a long while, Lin Xian opened his eyes and slowly exhaled as a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He could clearly feel that the lightning energy in his body was much stronger than before. There was no doubt that his strength had increased as well. When he released his hands, the two sparkling and translucent purple leaves in his palms had already lost their luster. When the wind blew, it turned into a pile of ashes and was blown away by the wind. After that, Lin Xian took out 2 more leaves and placed them in his hands, absorbing them quickly. Lin Xian repeated the process over and over again until all the leaves were absorbed. Only then did he open his eyes. Lin Xian was surrounded by purple lightning. He was like a thunder god that could control all the lightning in the world. In the next moment he raised his hand and moved his fingers. Countless purple lightning gathered and quickly formed a purple lightning dragon. He then waved his hand and the purple lightning dragon roared to the sky. Endless lightning fell in all directions. His fingers moved again and purple lightning flashed. The lightning dragon turned into a lightning sword and released an endless amount of violent energy. Under Lin Xian's control, the lightning sword turned into various strange beasts and weapons. The purple thunder divine bamboo is indeed worthy of its name. I only absorbed a few leaves and my lightning energy has become so powerful. If I absorb the entire purple thunder divine bamboo, not only will my cultivation level increase, I will definitely be able to form a thunder martial soul. Lin Xian was amazed. However, he would not consume the entire purple thunder divine bamboo now. As long as the purple thunder divine bamboo was in the mysterious space in his body, it would grow quickly. Even if he only absorbed the leaves, it would not take long for him to successfully form a thunder martial soul. Not far from Lin Xian, Zhao Shui opened her eyes. Then a terrifying aura came from her body. Even Lin Xian was moved by the aura. Zhao Shui must have successfully absorbed the energy in the Dragon Ball and her cultivation level increased again. Lin Xian even noticed that Zhao Shui's eyes contained a faint golden light. Presumably, some key changes had occurred to her eye technique. Feeling Lin Xian's gaze, Zhao Shui turned her head and smiled. Thank you for your dark lightning wood. It allowed me to absorb the energy in the Dragon Ball faster. Indeed, the Dragon Ball contained powerful evil energy. Ordinary cultivators only dared to absorb a little before they had to refine the evil energy. However, Zhao Shui was different now. She had the Jade Bodhi and the Dark Lightning Wood that had matured for thousands of years. The combination of the two could very well suppress the evil energy. Therefore, Zhao Shui's speed of absorbing the Dragon Ball had greatly increased. However, after chatting for a while, Zhao Shui frowned. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Lin Xian asked. My eye technique has made a breakthrough, and my perception of the surroundings has become clearer. I feel that there seems to be an aura in the distance that makes me feel very uneasy. Zhao Shui frowned. She had never encountered such a situation before. An aura that makes you feel uneasy? Hearing this, Lin Xian was surprised. He knew Zhao Shui's strength. She was not weaker than him. Moreover, ordinary 7th-level venerables were no match for her. Therefore, an aura that could make her feel fear was definitely not ordinary. Could it be the heavenly netherbird? Lin Xian thought for a moment. Perhaps only the ancient demonic beast, the heavenly netherbird, could make Zhao Shui feel fear. It's not the aura of the heavenly netherbird. Zhao Shui shook her head. They had felt the aura of the heavenly netherbird before, so Zhao Shui could distinguish it clearly. Then what aura is it? Lin Xian rubbed his chin. Could there be other terrifying existences in the secret realm? Why don't we go and take a look? Lin Xian was very curious. Furthermore, he found that the direction was very similar to the direction where they were searching for the heavenly netherbird. It was only slightly off, so it should not delay them. Hearing this, Zhao Shui nodded. She felt very uneasy. However, she still wanted to see what was going on because she would not allow anything that made her feel uneasy to exist. The two of them discussed for a while, then set off and ran in that direction. Originally, if they were to follow the heavenly netherbird, they should be heading north. However, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui were now heading northwest. The front gradually became desolate, and there was even a trace of gloomy aura lingering in the air. The further northwest they went, the stronger the aura became. Furthermore, the scenery around them became extremely different. It was no longer a vast forest, but a withered land. In the end, the gloomy aura made Lin Xian and Zhao Shui's scalps tingle. In front of them there was a withered tree. There were no leaves and the branches were all gray. It was as if the trees had died a long time ago. Chapter 1161. On the branches there were a few crows cawing. The cawing was like a malicious spirit and was very ear-piercing. It was a graveyard. Looking at the scene in front of him, Lin Xian frowned. This was because he saw many small hills. Some had stone tablets while others had nothing at all. However, there were no words written on those stone tablets. Therefore Lin Xian and Lin Shui did not know whose grave this was. However, from the aura around them, the person buried here should not be simple. Since they were already here, they had to take a look. Therefore, after taking a deep breath, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui carefully walked forward. The two of them released their soul power and carefully observed their surroundings. As long as there was danger, they would immediately take action. Crack, crack. Countless bones were buried on the yellow ground. At this moment, when Lin Xian stepped on them, they immediately turned into powder. However, the cracking sound was very clear and spread in all directions. Immediately, a few crows on the withered trees were frightened and quickly flew away. In the next moment, a cold wind blew and a cold aura quickly surged out. Lin Xian and Lin Shui tensed up and prepared to take action. However, after observing for a while, they did not find any danger. Therefore, they hid their spiritual power in their bodies and carefully walked forward. Just as Lin Xian and Zhao Shui stepped into the ancient graveyard, countless cultivators quickly flew towards the graveyard. 13th young master, it's right ahead. According to our investigation, this should be a treasure trove. A group of people came from afar. They were wearing the Shin family's clothes. It was obvious that these people were the Shin family's cultivators. Moreover, their auras were powerful. It was obvious that they were an elite team. The leader was a very handsome young man. He was wearing a golden threaded lightning robe and lightning surrounded his body. Moreover, the young man's aura was very powerful. He had reached the 7th heaven of the Venerable Realm. The person who spoke next to him was a middle-aged man. He was burly and had a stable aura. He carried a huge saber on his back and his body emitted a sharp saber light. Both of them were 7th heaven venerables. Especially the young man in the golden threaded lightning robe, his identity was extraordinary. In the Shin family he was called the 13th young master. There were 4 great young experts in the Jianghu continent. They were known as the 4 young masters of the Jianghu continent. The younger generation of the large families all followed suit and set the 4 young masters as their life goals. Therefore, many powerful young people also called themselves young masters. They felt that it was an honor. For example, the young man in the Shin family's younger generation was Shenyu. The middle-aged man with the huge saber on his back beside him was also an elder of the Shin family, Elder Qin Yun. At this moment, the group of people from the Shin family stood outside the huge mausoleum, looking ahead with sparkling eyes. Interesting. Shenyu clasped his hands behind his back and looked ahead with a slight smile. At the side, Elder Qin Yun said in a deep voice, "No one should have come to this place yet. It's a newly discovered treasure ground." Young master, I think we should be careful. Don't worry. Shenyu said arrogantly. I cultivate the Great Sun Thunder technique. It's an Earth-class martial technique that's full of yang energy. It's the best way to deal with yin energy. Not much. Yin ghosts and zombies can't even withstand a single blow from me. Of course. No one at your age can cultivate the Great Sun Thunder technique to the small success stage. Elder Qin Yun smiled. 13th young master, let's go. Shenyu nodded, then stepped out and entered the ancient cemetery. As the Shin family's martial artists entered, the yin energy in the surroundings became thicker. There were even ghostly shadows that attacked them. Yin ghosts and evil beings. You shouldn't even exist in this world. The 13th young master snorted. His body was covered in lightning and a ball was formed behind him. It was like a sun that emitted endless light. Great Sun Thunder technique. Endless lightning energy was emitted from the ball of lightning. It quickly spread in all directions and formed a world of lightning. The surrounding ghostly shadows were penetrated by the lightning and emitted a burnt smell. Countless miserable cries could be heard. In just an instant, the ghostly shadows disappeared without a trace. The scene when this group of people entered was completely different from when Lin Xian and Lin Xian had entered. There were no ghostly shadows. The reason for the change was that Lin Xian and Zhao Shui had entered the ancient tomb. They even had to break some restrictions to release the ghostly shadows in the ancient tomb. At this moment, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui had already entered the ancient tomb and were walking with difficulty. This place was too terrifying. There were restrictions everywhere. Luckily, they had the dark red divine dragon by their side, which allowed them to be much safer. But even so, many ghostly shadows were released. There was even an army of skeletons that charged at them. These skeletons were in the shape of humans and beasts. There were all kinds of strange skeletons. Each of them had pale white flames burning on their bodies and jade-green flames dancing in their eye sockets. They were incomparably deep and emitted a cold, ghostly aura. Countless skeletons charged at them. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He pushed his palm forward and a purple ball of lightning appeared in his palm. Then it quickly rolled forward. The ball of lightning became bigger and bigger. In the end, it was like a huge rock as it flew into the army of skeletons. Countless bolts of lightning flashed around the purple ball of lightning and continuously bombarded the skeletons. Although there were many skeletons, they were weak. Most of them only had the cultivation of a fourth or fifth heaven venerable. Moreover, they were evil creatures and were most afraid of yang energy like lightning. Therefore, when they encountered Lin Xian's purple lightning, their strength was weakened by another 30%. As a result, the ghostly shadows were defeated by Lin Xian's lightning. Therefore, it did not take long for the ghostly shadows to turn into white bones and scatter on the ground. Let's go. Let's continue forward. Lin Xian took the lead and walked forward. Behind him, the dark red divine dragon and Zhao Shui quickly followed. They had just taken a few steps when they heard a clattering sound behind them. The sound was very terrifying. It was as if bones were rubbing against each other. The three of them felt their scalps go numb as they turned their heads to look. Behind him, the white bones that had been scattered were rapidly gathering back together. The bones that were scattered all over the ground were quickly gathering to form a new behemoth. Not only that, the green flames in the skeleton's eye sockets also gathered together to form two fist-sized ghost flames. Chapter 1162. This aura was too violent. It actually had the strength of a 7th-level supremacy. These monsters are really difficult to deal with. The dark red divine dragon muttered. There were hundreds of ghosts before, and now they had gathered to form a huge monster. The huge monster looked like a human-shaped skeleton, but it was much taller than before. There was a pair of white bone wings on its back and a huge bone tail on its body. There were 4 arms on both sides of its abdomen. They were constantly waving and making cracking sounds. They easily cut through the void. This newly formed skeleton monster stared at Lin Xian and the others, then let out a low roar. It was as if a peerless demon king had awakened from hell. The huge skeleton monster stared at Lin Xian. The terrifying ghost aura spread out in all directions, filling the entire space. Zhao Shui, go ahead with the dark red divine dragon and break the formation below. Leave this place to me. Lin Xian said in a low voice. Okay. Zhao Shui nodded. Then she and the dark red divine dragon walked deeper into the tomb. Seeing that someone wanted to leave, the skeleton monster roared. The huge white bone wings on its back flapped, forming countless eerie winds that blew forward. Suddenly the void trembled. Countless eerie winds whistled, like dark clouds and ghosts crying, surging forward. Fortunately, the ancient tomb was very sturdy. The energy alone was enough to destroy this place dozens of times. There must be some kind of formation here that could prevent the entire tomb from being destroyed. Lin Xian knew this too. There were probably very few people below the challenger level who could destroy this tomb. Therefore he had no qualms about attacking. In his palm, countless purple lightning surged and quickly turned into 4 purple long swords. The 4 purple long swords were surrounded by lightning as they spun around Lin Xian. Then Lin Xian waved his arm. Suddenly the 4 long swords flew out like rainbows. Clang, clang, clang. In the next moment, the 4 purple lightning swords flew in all directions and stabbed into the ground. That position just happened to surround the skeleton monster. Following that, Lin Xian unleashed waves of lightning energy that surged forward. Suddenly, the 4 purple lightning swords in front of him shone brightly. Their bodies trembled and formed bolts of lightning. They quickly intertwined and formed a lightning sword shadow. Being bombarded by the countless lightning swords, the skeleton monster roared furiously, its voice shaking the mountains and rivers. A white flame rose from its body. It was extremely cold, causing the entire void to tremble. The white flames expanded, forming a protective light that quickly resisted the lightning swords in the surroundings. The 2 forces collided, and the entire underground tomb rumbled. He didn't know what the underground tomb was made of, or if there was an extremely powerful ancient formation. Even in the midst of this destructive energy, the surrounding buildings were not damaged. The skeletal monster's 4 arms kept waving, grabbing at the 4 purple lightning swords, as if it wanted to destroy them. Lin Xian snorted coldly and waved his hand. The power of thunder in his body condensed again, forming a purple thunder hammer that smashed forward. Bang! An earth-shattering blow. Endless lightning fell, and the skeletal monster was immediately smashed back. Lin Xian let out a low growl and swung the purple thunder god's hammer again. Bang! The thunder hammer was formed by purple thunder and contained an extremely strong yang energy. Moreover, Lin Xian used the great dragon sword soul to activate it. It could be said that its attack power was extremely strong. Therefore, after one strike, the skeleton's bones loosened, as if they would fall apart at any time. Kid, you can't fight like this. Even if you break it apart, it won't take long for it to reform again. At this moment, Zero's voice sounded in Lin Xian's mind. Do you see the green flames in its eye sockets? That's their source of energy. Only by destroying the flames can these ghosts be considered truly dead. I see. Lin Xian's eyes flashed as he stared at the green flames. With a clang, he took out the solitary shadow sword from his back and quickly stabbed forward. 2 streaks of sword chi flew out, as if they were immortal swords from another world. Their speed was extremely fast. With a flash of sword chi, the green flames in the skeletal monster's eye sockets were cut by the sword chi. Then, the great dragon sword soul's aura in the sword chi burst out and quickly extinguished the 2 green flames. The skeletal monster roared angrily, and the white flames on its body soared to the sky. However, no matter how strong it was, it could not resist the aura of the great dragon sword soul. After a moment, the 2 fist-sized green flames disappeared without a trace. The huge skeletal monster also fell to the ground, and countless bones scattered on the ground. Without the support of the source of energy, these skeletons were just a pile of trash. I see. The green flames seem to contain a trace of soul energy. It should be the source of the skeletal monster's power. With Zero's reminder, Lin Xian's killing power against the skeletal monster greatly increased. After dealing with the skeletal monster, Lin Xian walked into the depths of the ancient tomb. Just as he was trying his best to break the seal in the ancient tomb, the outside world was bustling. The 13th prince cultivated the great sun lightning art, and his lightning aura was extremely violent. He easily suppressed the ghosts around him. Just as they were feeling proud and wanted to continue moving forward, the space behind them fluctuated, and another group of powerful auras quickly approached. There are more people coming. The 13th prince frowned, and he looked behind him with a sharp gaze. Beside him, Elder Qingyun was also on guard. Countless streaks of sword chi lit up behind them, and it was like a meteor shower. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After a burst of dazzling sword chi, more than 10 figures landed on the ground. These people were of different heights and their faces were all different. However, there were no exceptions. They were all emitting a biting cold sword chi. Feeling the other party's aura. The Shen family's martial artists were all shocked. Although they were disciples of the sovereign family and had always looked down on others, they had to be careful when facing this group of people. The 13th prince and Elder Qingyun's eyes darkened. There was only one family in the entire Jianghu continent that could emit such a sharp sword chi, and that was the deity sword villa. He did not expect these people to come as well. The 13th prince snorted in his heart, but a smile soon appeared on his handsome face. I did not expect to see friends from the deity sword villa in such a desolate place. It's really fate. 13th prince, you're too polite. We passed by this place and felt that the aura here was extraordinary, so we came to check it out. We did not expect to meet the 13th prince of the Shen family. An elder laughed. The 13th prince squinted his eyes, and then quickly sized up the group in front of him. Although the deity sword villa was not a sovereign family, their strength was not to be underestimated. Furthermore, according to the information he had received, there was an extremely powerful senior among the people from the deity sword villa. Chapter 1163. At this moment, the 13th young master was extremely nervous as he quickly glanced at the people in front of him. When he saw a tall young man with a huge red sword on his back, his eyes instantly narrowed. Oh, I didn't expect the junior sword exalt Lu Tianyi to be here as well. I wonder if the senior sword exalt is here? The sword exalt was an extremely terrifying senior figure in the deity sword villa, and he was the person that the 13th young master feared. It was said that he was extremely formidable. He was once a peerless expert of that era, and he was even one of the exalts who had the chance to become a king. Moreover, as a swordsman, his combat strength was extremely powerful. Even if he didn't step into the king realm in the end, his fierce attacks still caused others to fear him. However, his life was limited if he didn't enter the king realm. It was said that the sword exalt's vital energy and blood had dried up over the years, and he didn't have many years left to live. It was said that not only had his vital energy and blood dried up, but his combat strength had decreased as well. Even his cultivation seemed to have dropped. The Sword Exalt was carrying hope in the opening of the Hidden Sky secret realm this time, and he was going to make a final gamble. Even though the Sword Exalt didn't have much time left, and his combat strength wasn't as strong as before, it was still not something that these people could resist. The Sword Exalt is nearby. He might be here soon. An elder from the deity Sword Villa said. Nearby. The 13th young master revealed a trace of a smile when he heard that. He wouldn't believe such words, and he assumed that the Sword Exalt wasn't with these people. Since that was the case, then he was at ease. Elder Qing Yun smiled and said, "Oh, is that so? Then when the Sword Exalt arrives, I'll have to greet him." The people from the deity Sword Villa could naturally hear the provocation, and the elder's face instantly sank. He took a step forward and said coldly, "What? Could it be that you're doubting my words?" As he spoke, a strand of flames rose from Elder Zhang's body, and it quickly condensed into a flaming sword before him. A terrifying aura quickly spread out. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Elder Qing Yun sneered as well, and a ray of light rose from his body and formed the image of a saber. The saber and the sword clashed, and invisible waves of air clashed, causing the entire space to crackle. The cultivators from both forces were extremely nervous. "Elder Lai Hua, now is not the time to make a move. This graveyard is filled with ghost qi. I think there should be a terrifying existence here. We should conserve our strength to explore the graveyard." At this moment, the young man with the red giant sword on his back in Deity Sword Villa said coldly. Hearing this, Elder Lai Hua nodded and retracted his aura. All the flames in the sky surged into his body. For a moment, the blazing aura disappeared, and a chilly wind blew in the surroundings again. On the other side, Elder Qing Yun also snorted coldly and retracted his dazzling saber light. The 13th young master smiled. His eyes sparkled as he looked at the young man with the red greatsword. Could this be the sword Dao genius known as the Junior Sword Sovereign Xiao Fan Brother Xiao? Rumor has it that Brother Xiao's strength is extraordinary, especially your attainments in the way of the sword. You are almost on par with Senior Honorable Sword from back then. Now that I've met you, you are indeed extraordinary. 13th young master, you are too polite. Honorable Sword Senior's skills are extremely high, and I am far from being able to compare to him. The two of them spoke politely, but their gazes were full of spiritual energy. There were even sparks colliding in the void. An invisible pressure quickly spread in the air. Instantly, the surrounding disciples felt their bodies tremble and their blood flow was not smooth. Then they sucked in a breath of cold air and looked in front of them in shock. These two young men were the same age as them. However, when the two of them looked at each other, such a terrifying aura was released. It was too shocking. They were indeed peerless geniuses. They were indeed terrifying. Xiao Fan and the 13th young master were also shocked. They did not expect their opponents to be so powerful. For a moment, the two of them did not have the confidence to win. In the end, the 13th young master retracted his gaze and said coldly, "Brother Xiao, you are indeed worthy of your reputation. Why don't you and I explore this Lingyuan ancient tomb together?" "I can't ask for more," Xiao Fan said firmly. Then he led the disciples of the deity Sword Villa into the ancient tomb in the cemetery. "Young master, are we really going to let them in so easily?" Elder Qing Yun asked with a voice transmission. His voice was filled with unwillingness. He was not willing to give up the treasures in the tomb to other forces. Now is not the time to fight over personal feelings. The other party has the same number of people as us. Moreover, I have tested them. Xiao Fan is very powerful. I am not confident of winning. Therefore, we should not fight if we can. After all, we have not even seen the treasures yet. It is not a wise choice to fight with others and exhaust our strength. It is not too late to fight when we find the treasures. The 13th young master said coldly. At that time, I will let them know how powerful our Shin family is. Young master is wise. Elder Qing Yun nodded. He also knew that now was not the best time to fight with the other party. However, just as the Shin family turned around and entered the tomb, there was another sound of something flying behind them. A red gourd was flying in the air at high speed. Everywhere it passed, there would be a strong gust of wind and space would tremble. The direction that the gourd was flying in was also the direction of the tomb. Are there more people coming? The 13th young master and the rest of the Shin family members were shocked. They did not expect the tomb to attract so many martial artists. This was not good news for them. Let's see who they are. If they are trash, we can just kill them. the 13th young master said coldly. Even the martial artists from Deity Sword Villa noticed the abnormality behind them and they turned around to look. In fact, the Yin Death Ghost Chi in this ancient tomb was too terrifying. It could be sensed from afar. Therefore, many martial artists from various forces had come to this ancient tomb, and they were all hiding in the dark. They did not dare to go against super forces like the Shen family in Deity Sword Villa. Therefore, they only followed behind and did not dare to show themselves. However, it was different now. There was actually someone who dared to come directly to the mausoleum in the cemetery, which made everyone in the surroundings feel shocked. At the same time, they were guessing which force he was from. Virum. The red gourd stopped above the tomb. Then 2 figures flew down from the red gourd. They were 2 young men. One of them was tall like a divine demon. He carried a black ancient sword on his back and he looked extremely fierce. His fierce aura was similar to the people from Deity Sword Villa, but it was not exactly the same. Obviously, he was also a swordsman. On the other hand, the other person was calm like a deity. He flipped his palm and the red gourd above him became smaller and smaller. Then it started to spin in his hand. The 2 of them had different temperaments, but the aura on them was equally strong. "Hey, it's them!" someone exclaimed. He seemed to recognize the 2 of them. Chapter 1164. Who are they? Hurry up and tell us. Someone asked impatiently. These 2 are disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy, and they aren't ordinary disciples. They are Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei, who are ranked 1st and 2nd on the Mystic Sovereign ranking. I didn't expect the 2 of them to team up in the remote heaven's secret mirror. Oh, so they are the genius disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy. No wonder they dared to show their faces in front of the Shen family in Deity Sword Villa. With their status and strength, they aren't any weaker than the disciples of the King clans. Many people discussed softly. Even the people of the Shen family in Deity Sword Villa narrowed their eyes. The Immortal Martial Academy was also powerful. They were even stronger than the Deity Sword Villa and were on the same level as the Shen family. However, according to their information, the Immortal Martial Academy didn't send anyone powerful this time. There were only a few ordinary elders and some disciples. I was wondering who it was. So it's the 2 disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy. Although you 2 are quite strong, the 2 of you aren't qualified to enter the ancient tomb with us. The 13th young master said arrogantly. He could clearly sense that the 2 of them weren't at the 7th Heaven Reverend Realm. Their auras were only at the 6th Heaven Reverend Realm. Although they were from the Immortal Martial Academy, he didn't put them in his eyes. After all, they weren't elders and their strength wasn't comparable to theirs. Hence, the 13th young master didn't plan to let them enter. He let the Deity Sword Villa in because their strength was similar to theirs. The 13th young master didn't have the confidence to win. Hence, he had no choice but to let the Deity Sword Villa have a share of the loot. However, it was different now. There were only 2 of them and their strength wasn't comparable to theirs. Hence, they wouldn't let them enter the ancient tomb no matter what. You 2, I advise you to get lost. Otherwise, you'll suffer when I make my move. Elder Qing Yun snorted. Is that so? This ancient tomb doesn't belong to your Shen family. Dugu Outyin said coldly. Don't talk nonsense with them. Get rid of them quickly. The 13th young master waved his hand impatiently. There's no need for young master and elders to deal with 2 brats. Let me do it. A middle-aged man stood out. I've always wanted to compete with the Immortal Martial Academy. Now is the time. Another young man walked out. Both of them were at the 6th heavenly layer of the Venerable Realm, the same realm as Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei. Therefore, it was most suitable for them to take action. The 2 of them laughed sinisterly and quickly pounced towards Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei. Amongst them, the middle-aged man faced Dugu Outyin, and the young man faced Li Yunfei. The 2 of them attacked fiercely and mercilessly, displaying extremely powerful combat strength. However, after a series of soul-stirring sounds, the 2 figures flew back. What? How is this possible? The surrounding people were all dumbfounded because the ones who flew back were none other than the 2 martial artists of the Shen family. Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei stood with their hands behind their backs, and their expressions were extremely calm. Obviously, they didn't care about the battle just now. At this moment, everyone had strange expressions on their faces, and they were shocked in their hearts. One move. With just one move, the 2 of them had defeated opponents of the same level. This kind of method was a little too terrifying. As expected of the strongest disciple of the Immortal Martial Academy. The surrounding people exclaimed, while the people of the Deity Sword Villa were shocked. Most of them stared at Dugu Outyin. This brat sword technique is a little strange. The eyes of an elder from the deity sword villa flickered. Indeed, I've never seen this sword technique before. It shouldn't be a martial art from the Immortal Martial Academy. Seems like he had a fortuitous encounter. Xiao Fan also nodded slightly. Unfortunately, his cultivation was a little too weak. Xiao Fan added and no longer paid attention to it. Indeed, now that Xiao Fan's cultivation had reached the seventh sky of the honorable realm, no matter how exquisite the other party's sword technique was, it was useless in front of absolute power. The people of the deity sword villa were in a heated discussion, while the people of the Shin family were gloomy. This was a slap to their faces, and it was a slap to their faces. They are a king family and they are the kings of the same level. However, the other party defeated their people with just one move. This was too much of a mockery. Brat, I have to say that the two of you have indeed exceeded my expectations, Elder Qing Yun said coldly. However, I'm afraid you're not qualified to interfere with the ancient tombs in the mausoleum. What other moves do you have? Use them all. However, I advise you to find someone stronger. Don't be like what you did just now. After cultivating for 100 or 200 years, you're still at the sixth sky of the honorable realm. A piece of trash like him is not worthy of me fighting. Dugu Aoyin stood straight and said coldly. He didn't even draw his sword when facing the middle-aged man who was at the same level as him. The middle-aged man who fought with him just now was so angry that he vomited blood. Indeed, although he looked like a middle-aged man, his actual age was more than 200 years old. Being at the sixth sky of the honorable realm at this age wasn't very good, but it wasn't too bad either. However, at this moment, Dugu Aoyin called him a piece of trash. This made him so angry that he vomited blood. At this moment, Li Yunfei said calmly with his hands behind his back. Of course, don't send people who use pills to increase their cultivation. Those people can't even fully integrate their spiritual energy. Puff. When the young man from the Shin family heard this, he was so angry that he vomited blood. He did use pills to increase his cultivation. He had forcefully raised his cultivation to the sixth heavenly layer. However, very few people knew about this secret. Now that it had been mercilessly exposed, he felt too ashamed to face it. Hearing the other party's arrogant words, the 13th young master's eyes turned cold. Elder Qing Yun, on the other hand, shouted coldly. Two arrogant brats, the Shin family isn't someone you can provoke. Today, I'll teach the two of you a lesson on behalf of the Immortal Martial Academy. After saying that, his figure flashed and he quickly rushed forward. What? He's going to do it himself? Seeing this scene, the cultivators who were hiding in the dark felt their eyelids twitching. Even the people from the deity sword manor were surprised. Who was Elder Qing Yun? He was an elder of the Shin family and a seventh sky honorable realm. It was obviously bullying for such a person to deal with two juniors who were at the sixth sky honorable realm. It seemed that the Shin family's defeat had made the other party anxious. Elder Qing Yun raised his hand and the spiritual energy in his body quickly condensed above him, forming a mountain that pressed forward. This mountain shone brightly and emitted a vast aura that instantly crushed the sky. Although this mountain wasn't a real mountain, it was formed by Elder Qing Yun's spiritual energy. Its power was even more terrifying than a real mountain. Chapter 1165. Dugu Aoyin and Li Yunfei didn't expect that the other party would actually attack without caring about their status. The two of them looked at each other and attacked at the same time to defend against the other party's three spirit peaks. With a clang, Dugu Aoyin pulled out his black sword and slashed out. The sword chi was vast and mighty, and the shocking sword light illuminated the entire sky. On the other side, Li Yunfei also quickly waved his palm, and agile palm shadows appeared in the air. The two of them worked together and fought against the spirit mountain in the sky. Boom! In the sky, the huge spirit mountain was slashed apart, and then it was hit by countless palm shadows. However, the terrifying energy exploded and forced Dugu Aoyin and Li Yunfei to retreat. The two of them retreated more than 10 steps before stabilizing themselves. Was this the power of a 7th level enforcer? It was indeed powerful. Dugu Aoyin's arm was trembling slightly. The rebounding force just now was too terrifying. If it wasn't for his abnormal talent, he probably wouldn't have been able to withstand it. Even so, that attack made his entire arm numb. Li Yunfei's situation was the same. His face was incomparably solemn. The other party's strength was beyond his imagination. What? They actually blocked it? The surrounding people all widened their eyes in disbelief. That was the attack of a 7th level enforcer. Not to mention 2 6th-level enforcers. Even 10 6th-level enforcers might not be able to block it. Now the other party only relied on 2 people to block the attack of a 7th-level enforcer. This was too shocking. Elder Qingyun was also extremely shocked. He originally wanted to teach the other party a lesson and let them know that their Shin family wasn't to be trifled with. However, he didn't dare to kill the 2 of them. After all, they were the top disciples of the Immortal Martial Academy. And the Immortal Martial Academy wasn't weaker than their Shin family. Therefore, he only used 30% of his strength in this attack. This kind of strength could injure them without taking their lives. It could be said that this was completely within his calculations. However, he didn't expect the other party to actually block his attack. He knew that it was just a casual attack, but the difference between a 6th-level enforcer and a 7th-level enforcer was like heaven and earth. Wouldn't this scene look like he couldn't defeat the 2 brats in the eyes of outsiders? He couldn't tolerate this. In the next moment, his expression became extremely gloomy. "Brat, since the 2 of you are so stubborn, don't blame me." As soon as he finished speaking, his aura skyrocketed once again. That terrifying aura made everyone around him feel despair. In an instant, the powerful aura of the green-robed elder exploded. A vast amount of energy gushed out from his body and filled the entire space. This aura made all the surrounding martial artists tremble with fear. After that, Elder Qingyun's hand glowed brightly as he slammed it forward. It can't be. Could it be that he wants to kill the 2 students from the Immortal Martial Academy? When the surrounding martial artists saw this scene, they all shuddered with fear. If the most outstanding student of the Immortal Martial Academy were to die here, they would definitely go crazy. At that time, no one could predict what would happen. After the terrifying energy gushed out from the palm, a bright light shone in all directions, filling the entire space. The entire void trembled. One could only imagine how terrifying that palm was. Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei were also shocked. They did not expect that the other party would actually dare to kill them. The 2 of them roared and quickly increased their strength to the maximum. Then they retreated into the distance. Because this palm was too terrifying. The terrifying energy was like a huge wave. Although it was not close, just the wind from the palm made their blood boil. This was a furious attack from a 7th heaven venerable. The 2 of them could not withstand it at all. Not only that, the palm quickly enveloped the 2 of them and was about to slam down. It's over. Those 2 brats are dead for sure. The surrounding martial artists sighed. They knew that Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei could not escape from this palm. If they were hit, not even their bones would be left. Just at this critical moment, a cold snort suddenly came from the void. It was like countless claps of thunder, causing the void to explode. Then in the sky a huge fist swung down. That fist was completely black like a black mountain. Incomparable energy pierced through heaven and earth. On that fist there were countless black flames dancing. When the fist was swung out, heaven and earth trembled. The airflow tumbled like waves crashing against the 9 heavens. This fist landed heavily on Elder Qingyun's palm. Suddenly the palm trembled violently, stirring up the entire space. Even the wind was howling. An extremely terrifying energy exploded and swept out in all directions. Instantly, the martial artists hiding in the dark screamed and fled quickly. This energy was too terrifying. Even the aftershocks were not something they could withstand. After an earth-shattering explosion, Elder Qingyun's big palm was quickly sent flying. Moreover, Elder Qingyun's face darkened and he took a step back. What? The Shen family disciples and martial artists of the deity Sword Villa were shocked. They did not expect the powerful Elder Qingyun to be forced back. Although he only took a step back, it showed that the strength of the person who came was absolutely terrifying. When the 13th young master saw this, his face also darkened. Elder Qingyun's face was even more ferocious. His gaze was like lightning piercing through the front. Who dares to interfere in my Shin family's matters? Get out here. This voice was extremely terrifying. It was like tens of thousands of demonic beasts were roaring. Old man, how dare you bully my Immortal Martial Academy's disciples? Do you believe that I won't break your bones? In the sky, a furious voice rang out. Then a figure quickly descended from the sky. Boom. This person landed on the ground like a huge mountain. The entire ground trembled and countless cracks spread in all directions. How terrifying. Who is this guy? Just by landing he has such a terrifying aura? 7th level Reverend, it's a 7th level Reverend. Could it be someone from the Immortal Martial Academy? Everyone was discussing and were extremely curious. They all looked forward. That figure was extremely tall. He was even taller than Dugu Outyin. He was wearing a black armor that was flickering with light. He looked like a fiend god. His sharp face was filled with coldness. His gaze was like divine lightning as he glared fiercely at the front. His voice was even colder. Your Shin family is really shameless. An old man dares to bully my disciple? If you want to fight, I'll accompany you. There was a hint of anger in this voice. Looking at this figure, the surrounding people were shocked. The 13th young master and Xiao Fan of the deity Sword Villa narrowed their eyes and looked at the figure in front of them. This was because they could sense that this person was extremely powerful. He was not much weaker than them. On the other hand, Elder Qing Yun's face was ashen. He clenched his fists tightly and his body was trembling with anger. However, he did not immediately make a move. This was because from the previous exchange, he knew that the person in front of him was definitely not weaker than him. Senior brother Meng, you're here. Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei were overjoyed. Chapter 1166. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei were the top disciples ranked first and second on the Celestial Martial Arts Academy's Mystic Honorable Leaderboard. However, someone who could be addressed as senior brothers by them was definitely extraordinary. Moreover, they knew that none of the disciples in the academy could be addressed as senior brothers by them. In other words, this person was no longer a disciple of the Celestial Martial Arts Academy, but a disciple from the previous batch. I heard that the disciples who graduated from the Celestial Martial Arts Academy, other than those who left the academy, have all entered the punishment hall. Brother, you must be from the punishment hall, right? Xiao Fan said in a deep voice. That's right. I'm a member of the punishment hall, Meng Tian. The 13th young master was shocked to hear this. You're Meng Tian, who was ranked third on the previous Mystic Honorable Leaderboard? Everyone was shocked to hear this. No wonder this person was so powerful. He was ranked third on the previous Mystic Honorable Leaderboard. So it's Brother Meng. Since that's the case, you're qualified to enter the ancient tomb. The 13th young master said slowly. Meng Tian nodded and led Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei towards the ancient tomb. However, in the next moment, the entire ground shook and an extremely cold aura came from underground. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. Elder Qing Yun and the rest were shocked. Oh no, there's someone below. Did someone enter before us? Elder Lai Hua's face turned gloomy. It should be. It seems to be a violent tremor caused by the seal being broken. Meng Tian's eyes flickered. Damn it, let's go. The 13th young master gritted his teeth and said with a pale face. Originally, he wanted to search the cemetery properly, but he didn't expect someone to enter before them. This made him anxious. If the other party was an expert, they would not be able to get anything if they were late. Therefore, the 13th young master, Hua Cheng, dashed forward like a bolt of lightning. Behind him, the disciples of the Shin family also dashed out. Let's go too. Xiao Fan, who was carrying a red giant sword, said quickly and then moved. Meng Tian and the other two followed closely behind. The group of people quickly entered the ancient tomb in the cemetery. Lin Xian and Zhao Shui naturally did not know what happened in the ancient tomb. Along the way, they and the dark red divine dragon broke the restrictions and seals and obtained many good items. Just a moment ago, they had broken through the last powerful seal and entered the deepest part of the tomb. It was this seal that had caused the violent tremors earlier. At this moment they stood there. They did not rashly enter because there was a bone-chilling aura in front of them. That aura was too terrifying. Even Lin Xian wasn't completely confident. Therefore, the three of them did not enter for a while. Instead, they stayed outside and carefully investigated. In front of him was a secret chamber. It was spacious enough, but there weren't many things inside. There were only 3 coffins placed in a triangular formation. There was a clear lamp on top of each coffin, flickering with eerie will-o'-the-wisp. There was no movement in the room. Only the 3 ghost lanterns were flickering. Who were the people buried in these 3 coffins? And where did this terrifying aura come from? Lin Xian frowned. At the side, the dark red dragon also had a solemn expression. Kid, luckily we didn't barge in recklessly. Damn it. This fellow is too treacherous. He actually has a final formation trap. Trap? What trap? Zhao Shui asked with a frown. Do you see the ground inside? That's the last trap. Hearing that, Lin Xian and Zhao Shui looked forward. The ground in front of them was cyan in color. It was paved with square cyan slabs. It was neat and tidy, not a single bit out of place. The dark red dragon explained that this should be an extremely ancient formation. You wouldn't be able to see anything from the outside. However, once you stepped on the green slabs, this formation would be activated. If you took a wrong step, endless danger would await you. The dark red dragon rubbed its chin and looked around. Let me study it. How should I break this formation? Just as the dark red dragon was studying the formation, a group of martial artists suddenly rushed in from the entrance of the tomb. These people were naturally the 13th prince and the others from before. They were originally still above, but they suddenly felt a shocking energy coming from below. Their expressions changed drastically, and they all rushed into the tomb. Oh no, there are indeed traces of people entering here. Elder Qing Yun looked forward with a gloomy face. Let's go quickly. There are many formations in this tomb. Even if someone entered first, he shouldn't be able to get far. If we speed up, we might still have a chance. Elder Lai Hua from Deity Sword Villa said in a deep voice. Don't let me find out who it is. Otherwise, I'll let him know how powerful I am. The 13th prince was extremely gloomy. He was furious. He originally thought that everything in the tomb belonged to him, but he didn't expect someone to beat him to it. If it wasn't for the fluctuation of aura, he wouldn't even know that someone had entered the tomb before him. Therefore, he decided that if he saw the person who entered the tomb before him, he would kill him no matter who he was. That was the only way he could vent his anger. Let's go. The 13th prince led the disciples of the Shen family and walked forward quickly. Along the way they saw countless skeletons and corpses. There were also traces of a fight. However, they didn't encounter any danger. This meant that the threat ahead had been eliminated by the person who had entered before them. This scene. Everyone's face turned ugly. The stronger the opponent was, the more upset they felt. There's a treasure box here. One of the disciples of the Shen family was quick to notice a treasure box in the dark ahead. He moved quickly and arrived in front of the treasure box. That person must have left in a hurry and didn't notice the treasure box. The disciple of the Shen family was very proud. He guessed that the treasure box had been left behind. With a click, he quickly opened the treasure box. However, he was dumbfounded in the next moment. This was because there was nothing inside the treasure chest, only some remnants of spiritual energy. Damn it, the thing inside has been taken away. The disciple was so angry that he smashed the treasure box with his palm. He was furious. He was too furious. He thought that he had gotten a great bargain, but he didn't expect to be fooled. The treasure box had obviously been opened by someone before, but it was restored to its original state. However, the thing inside was gone. It was obvious that it was done by the person who had entered before them. Damn it, that person is such a bastard. Catch him. We must kill him. The martial artists of the Shen family were also furious. However, before they could finish cursing, the ground started to tremble. Chapter 1167. D*Mnet. What happened? The group of people were terrified. Oh no, it's a trap. The treasure chest should be some kind of trap. However, it was destroyed and the trap was triggered. 13th young master's face turned ghastly pale. He did not expect them to not only fail to obtain the treasure but also activate a trap for no reason. They were too unlucky. The ground shook slightly and a group of ghost soldiers crawled out from the ground. They carried a cold aura and pounced on the Shen family martial artists. Get lost. In an instant, angry shouts and sounds of fighting could be heard. What happened over there? The people from Deity Sword Villa chose the other side. Hence, they were not too sure about what was happening at the Shen family. However, the moment they entered the tomb, they started to place martial artists to spy on the Shen family secretly. Hence, they received news very quickly. Oh, you're saying that they opened an empty treasure chest and someone even broke the treasure chest that they were fighting over, triggering a restriction trap. Elder Lai Hua squinted his eyes and said to the disciples from Deity Sword Villa, "This ancient tomb is very dangerous. Hence, do not destroy things casually. Even if you find a treasure chest, report it immediately." It was not a big deal if there were no treasures. However, if they triggered a powerful trap, it would be troublesome. The surrounding disciples nodded as they heard the angry shouts from the Shen family's disciples not far away. It seemed that the trap was not simple. After instructing the disciples, Elder Lai Hua and Xiao Fan continued on their journey. However, not long after, they found a treasure chest at the corner of the wall. The treasure chest was hidden in a pile of rocks and bones. It was very well hidden. If the people from Deity Sword Villa did not search carefully, they would not have found it. "Elder, there's a treasure chest." A disciple from Deity Sword Villa shouted excitedly. Elder Lai Hua was surprised when he heard that. His body moved and he instantly came to the vicinity. The surrounding disciples from Deity Sword Villa flew over quickly when they heard that. Be careful. Don't fall into the trap, Xiao Fan said with a red giant sword on his back. Elder Lai Hua nodded. Then he gathered a few elders and began to carefully conduct various tests and research. Not long after, Elder Lai Hua suddenly smiled. Young Master Fan, we have checked. No one has opened this treasure chest. That means the item inside is still there. It had never been opened before. Hearing this, Xiao Fan raised his eyebrows and revealed a look of interest. Then he said in a deep voice, be careful. Open it slowly. The surrounding disciples also held their breaths. Crack. A low voice could be heard as the treasure chest opened. But in the next moment, the smile on Lai Hua's face disappeared and was replaced by a look of horror. Yes, it should be a trap. Along with the roar, a gray mist flew out from the treasure chest and spread out in all directions. Not good, it's poisonous gas, hold your breath. Elder Lai Hua was infuriated. Then he dashed backward. Plop, plop. A few disciples fell to the ground, their faces dark. Oh no, they're poisoned. Damn it. What kind of poison is this? It's so terrifying. The disciples of the Deity Sword Villa were terrified. One had to know that the weakest among them was at the fifth heaven of the Venerable Realm. However, they were poisoned in an instant. They had never heard of such a poison. Elder Lai Hua extended both of his palms and a fire dragon roared as it flew forward. The fire dragon circled around and dispersed the gray mist. Then it brought the few disciples who had fainted back. However, at the moment of saving them, a few more disciples were shrouded by the poisonous gas and were on the verge of collapse. Damn it! What kind of poison is this? The older generation figures accidentally came into contact with the gray poisonous gas, and their skin immediately turned black. The elder was at the sixth heaven of the Venerable Realm. He roared and shot out a series of light shadows. However, when they entered the gray mist, they were useless. Humph! Xiao Fan snorted coldly. He pulled out the giant red sword on his back and slashed it down. Suddenly, countless sword chi flew out from the giant sword like a fiery sword rain and quickly filled the entire space. The sword chi was extremely sharp and carried a thick fire-based aura as if it was burning. In an instant, the poisonous gas was dispersed. Seeing this, the crowd heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Xiao Fan was here. Otherwise, if they were infected by the poisonous gas, they would not be able to survive. After destroying the gray poisonous gas, Xiao Fan asked coldly, Elder Lai Hua, do you know what kind of poisonous gas it is? If I'm not wrong, it should be corpse poison. Elder Lai Hua's face turned ugly. Corpse poison? Xiao Fan frowned. Yes, corpse poison. Moreover, it was formed by the burning of more than 10 seventh heaven of the Venerable Realm's corpses. This poisonous gas is extremely terrifying. Fortunately, young Master Fan, you're cultivating the earth-rank martial art, Fiery Sword Art. Not only is it powerful, but it's also fire-based. That's why you can disperse the corpse poison so easily. Otherwise, we would be in danger. I understand. Xiao Fan nodded. Then he flicked out several fiery red sword chi into the bodies of the disciples who were poisoned to help them expel the poison. After half an hour, the poisonous gas on the disciples' faces gradually disappeared. He walked over slowly. Although the disciples who were poisoned were fine, the people from Deity Sword Villa were not happy. This was because they had just entered the ancient tomb and fell into a trap. Moreover, they almost suffered a large number of casualties. Before this, they had not expected it at all. It seems like this ancient tomb is more troublesome than we thought, Xiao Fan said. Yes, I reckon that it's a trap. The person who came before us must have seen through it. That's why he didn't touch the treasure box. It's funny that we thought we had picked up a treasure. In the end, we fell into a trap. Elder Lai Hua sighed. Not long after we entered, we in the Shin family fell into a trap. It seems like the person who came before us is more troublesome than we thought. Let's go. I reckon that there aren't any treasures left along the way. Xiao Fan shook his head. Then he took the lead and quickly walked into the depths of the ancient tomb. This time he no longer paid attention to the scenery on both sides. This was because he knew that even if there were treasures left behind, it would be a trap. On the other side, the martial artists from the Shin family were also hurrying along. Meng Tian, Dugu Outyin and the other two were not in a hurry to take action. However, when they found out about the situation of the Shin family in Deity Sword Villa, they quickly gave up their previous thoughts. They had to find the person who came before them quickly. Otherwise, the treasures here would have nothing to do with them. Along the way, the 13th young master's face grew colder. This was because after walking for so long, he still had not found any trace of the person. During this process they had already found more than 10 treasure boxes. However, all of them had been taken away without exception. Damn it. When I find that despicable guy, I'll make him spit out all the treasures that he took. The 13th young master's eyes were filled with murderous intent. That person was too despicable. He did not even leave any treasures for them. Chapter 1168. Lin Xian didn't know that he was being targeted by 3 parties. However, even if he knew, it didn't matter. After all, he was the one who had taken the treasures from the treasure chests. They had broken countless seals along the way, so their harvest was naturally bountiful. It was obvious that this tomb belonged to a great figure, and the treasures inside were probably buried with him. At this moment, Lin Xian's group of 3 had already entered the final chamber, and they were only a dozen meters away from the 3 bronze coffins. However, at this moment, the sound of air vibrating violently came from behind them. Someone's here? Lin Xian turned around and frowned. Beside him, Zhao Shui also activated her Void Heaven Eyes. Suddenly, the Void Heaven Eyes trembled and a blurry figure appeared. Someone's here and there's quite a few of them, Zhao Shui said in a deep voice. Lin Xian's frown deepened as he looked at the figures formed by the Void Heaven Eyes. It's actually the Shen family's disciples. It seems that we have to speed up. Ruffian Dragon, can you speed up? Lin Xian asked. It's impossible to secretly break through the seals. Of course, if you want to fall into the trap, it'll be very fast. Ruffian Dragon replied. Forget it. Lin Xian shook his head and said, let's continue with your plan. The aura of this place made him somewhat apprehensive, so unless it was absolutely necessary, he didn't want to fall into the trap. Then what about the people behind us? Zhao Shui asked. It's fine. This trap will probably be enough for them to suffer. Lin Xian sneered. While the 2 of them were talking, the group of people behind them had already arrived in front of the chamber. Looking at the 3 coffins and Lin Xian's group of 3, everyone became excited. After searching for so long, we finally found that person. The 13th young master was even more excited. How dare the 2 of you? Who let you in? Our Shen family was the first to discover this ancient tomb. A Shen family disciple stepped forward and pointed at Lin Xian. You discovered it first? How thick-skinned? Lin Xian revealed a look of disdain. Seeing the mocking gaze, the Shen family disciple was furious. He was just about to flare up when he was stopped by Elder Qing Yun. Elder Qing Yun's eyes flickered as he coldly said, Brat, I'll give you a chance. Give us 70% of the treasures you obtained before and we can let you live. Otherwise, I'm afraid that even if you obtain the treasure today, you won't be able to leave here alive. That's right. Being able to contribute treasures to the 13th young master is the greatest fortune of your life. Young man, don't make a mistake. You'd better recognize the situation in front of you. The group of people pointed at Lin Xian and sneered. Scram. In the face of the Shen family's aggression, Lin Xian only said one word. You dare to tell us to get lost? He's really going against the heavens. Brat, do you know who you're talking to? Do you believe that I will break your bones one by one? The Qin family martial artists were enraged. A brat actually dared to insult their Qin family. This was simply courting death. The 13th young master's eyes were as cold as swords as he looked ahead. Then he sneered in disdain. I thought you were some expert. Turns out you're just a brat at the 5th sky of the honorable realm. Brat, you might be an expert among ordinary people, but you're nothing in front of us. Do you know who we are? We're the Qin family's martial artists. If you know what's good for you, kneel down obediently and hand over all the treasures you obtained. Then I can spare your life. Qin family? I've beaten up many disciples of the Qin family. I wonder which one you are? Lin Xian said coldly. Since the other party wanted to have a war of words with him, it couldn't be any better. He could use this opportunity to stall for time so that Hong could break the array faster. Brat, I think you really don't want to live anymore. The 13th young master's face darkened when he heard Lin Xian's words. Young master, don't talk nonsense with this brat. Why don't we capture him and snatch the treasures directly? Elder Qing Yun said coldly from the side. All right. The 13th young master nodded. If any of you capture that brat, I'll give him half an earth rank martial skill. I'll go. The disciples were all excited when they heard the reward. Immediately, 2 young martial artists rushed out and flew forward with a hideous smile. Die, brat. How dare you offend the Qin family? Both of them were at the peak of the 5th sky of the Honorable Realm and could even fight against the 6th sky of the Honorable Realm. Therefore, in their opinion, capturing a 5th sky brat was a piece of cake. However, as soon as they entered the secret chamber, they were attacked by a pale white flame. Immediately, the two of them were engulfed by the flame. They screamed in pain before their bodies burned and turned into ashes. In an instant, the two of them turned into ashes. What? How is this possible? What kind of flame is this? How can it be so terrifying? The martial artists of the Qin family were all stunned. The people of the Deity Sword Villa happened to arrive at the back. When they saw this scene, they gasped. Even Elder Lai Hua had a grave expression on his face. He cultivated a fire-based martial skill. However, just now the white flame made his heart palpitate. This was simply too inconceivable. Brat, how dare you kill the disciples of the Qin family? You're dead meat. The 13th young master was surrounded by a murderous aura. Idiot. Lin Xian snorted. What did you say? How dare you scold me? The 13th young master was trembling with anger and was about to attack. At this moment, Lin Xian's voice was heard again. Firstly, I didn't kill them. If you're not blind, you should be able to see it clearly. Secondly, so what if you're from the Qin family? If I want to kill someone, none of you can stop me. Let me give you a piece of advice. Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The 13th young master was trembling with anger when he heard Lin Xian's words. Who was he? He was the 13th young master of the Qin family. Usually no one dared to provoke him. Even the disciples of the Qin family had to be careful when they saw him. However, someone dared to scold him? That was courting death. Brat, you're dead meat. It doesn't matter if you hand over the treasure or not. You're dead meat. The 13th young master was like the god of death. However, Lin Xian was not moved at all. He turned around and ignored these people. The 13th young master was furious when he saw this. He raised his hand and slapped out. Boom. A terrifying palm shadow blasted forward. The entire space was about to split open. However, when the palm shadow entered the secret room, it was extinguished by a ball of white flame and disappeared in the air. What? It can even burn the energy of a 7th heaven honorable? Everyone was dumbfounded. They did not know what kind of flame it was. It was so terrifying. It was the 13th young master's attack. It was much stronger than an ordinary 7th heaven honorable. Even so, it could not enter the space in front of him. Chapter 1169. The power of the pale white flames was beyond everyone's expectations. Even the 13th young master was stunned. He did not expect his attack to be neutralized. Damn it, what are those flames? Why can those people enter? He stared at Lin Xian's back with a cold gaze. Young master, this should be a formation. At the side, Elder Qin Yun's expression was also solemn, but as for how to break it, this old man did not understand at the moment. The 13th young master's face turned gloomy. This was not good news for him. If they could not break the formation, it would be even more dangerous to barge in. That was because they knew that the space in front of them was filled with pale white flames. Those flames were extremely terrifying. Even a 7th level venerable might not be able to resist them. Therefore, the 13th young master did not want to be surrounded by those flames unless he had no other choice. However, if they could not break the formation, they could only watch as Lin Xian and the others took the treasure. This kind of thing was even more intolerable to them. At the side, the people from Deity Sword Villa also had gloomy expressions because they could not break the formation either. In the end, the people from the two forces quickly discussed and decided to break the formation together. They could not let that kid take the treasure. Otherwise, if news of this spread, they would say that so many elites could not do anything to two thieves. That would definitely be an extremely embarrassing thing. After all, these people were from the top forces and there were many seniors present. Therefore, after some discussion, they finally found a solution. A few seniors took the lead and carefully walked into the secret room in front of them. The first few steps were not dangerous and the pale white flames did not appear either. It seemed that they had found the right method. The seniors heaved a sigh of relief. However, in the next moment, an elder from the Shun family took a step forward and stepped on the limestone floor. Suddenly, countless flames emerged from the ground and instantly enveloped that elder. Ah! That elder screamed and his entire body burned. He roared crazily and wanted to put out the flames, but he could not do it at all. In an instant he was burned to ashes. Seeing this, everyone's scalps went numb and their faces were filled with fear. That was a 6th level venerable. However, it was burned to ashes in an instant. This white flame was too terrifying. For a time, the older generation figures in front of him didn't dare to walk around. Instead, they quickly studied it again. Amidst this tense atmosphere, another 3 figures arrived. These 3 people were naturally Meng Tian and Dugu Outyen. They just happened to see the scene of the 6th heavenly layer elder being burned to ashes, and were immediately shocked. They didn't need to think to know that there was an extremely terrifying array formation ahead. However, when Dugu Outyen and Li Yunfei really arrived before them, they were stunned. That was because they noticed an extremely familiar figure standing in front of them. Lin Xian, why are you here? Dugu Outyen was stunned. Are you the one who came in early? Li Yunfei was also shocked. What? Lin Xian? He's Lin Xian, that disciple from the Immortal Martial Academy? Hearing Li Yunfei Duo's words, the surrounding martial artists also burst into an uproar. They didn't expect that the person who shocked them was also a disciple of the Immortal Martial Academy. They had heard a lot about Lin Xian's name, but that didn't mean that they had seen him before. That was why they didn't recognize him before. However, now that someone said it, they all understood. That was because they knew that the other party was a very mysterious existence. They had also heard of what had happened before. A 5th Heaven Venerable had forcefully snatched the most precious treasure from the hands of several top experts and had even successfully escaped. Not only that, it seemed that the other party could even fight against the 7th level Venerable. Moreover, he left calmly when facing the pursuit of the top experts of the War God Palace. Regardless of which incident it was, it made Lin Xian extremely mysterious. Previously, they didn't really believe these rumors because in their opinion, these rumors were too exaggerated. After all, how could a 5th level Venerable be compared to a 7th level Venerable? But now it seemed that they were somewhat convinced. Because their 2 top clans didn't break the array formation, but the other party easily walked into the depths of the array formation. Damn it, this kid must have a secret. What's a secret? I only know that this kid has a lot of treasures. If we can catch him, those treasures will all be ours. In an instant, countless cultivators stared at Lin Xian with burning eyes. Lin Xian also turned his head and looked at Dugu Outyen and Li Yunfei. He nodded slightly. What a coincidence, you guys are here too. He said with a smile, then looked at Meng Tian who was at the side. What a powerful aura. He realized that the other party's aura was very powerful. It wasn't any weaker than the 13th Prince or Xiao Fan from the Deity Sword Villa. As if seeing the doubt in Lin Xian's eyes, Dugu Outyen explained, this is senior brother Meng Tian, who ranked 3rd on the previous Mystic Venerable leaderboard. He's now a member of the Punishment Hall. A member of the Punishment Hall? Ranked 3rd on the previous Mystic Venerable leaderboard? No wonder he was so powerful. Lin Xian understood and then smiled as he cupped his fists. Greetings, senior brother Meng. Your junior brother Lin? I've heard rumors about you, but now that I've met you, I realize that you're indeed extraordinary. Meng Tian wasn't lying because he felt a dangerous aura from Lin Xian. He didn't feel that way even when facing the 13th Prince or Xiao Fan. Therefore he was very curious and fearful of Lin Xian. After Meng Tian and the other 2 arrived, they didn't rush forward. After all, they were still young and didn't know much about formations. Therefore they didn't dare to rush forward. The 3 of them stood outside and waited for the right time. However, not long after, the dark red divine dragon's body shook and he roared excitedly. It's broken. I've finally broken this formation. Along with his voice, there was a slight tremor in front of him. Then a terrifying aura quickly disappeared. It's broken? Lin Xian was shocked. He originally thought that the dark red divine dragon would break the formation bit by bit. Then he would be able to get closer to the bronze coffin. However, he didn't expect the entire formation to be broken. This was something that he had never expected. Since the formation was broken, it meant that the people outside could enter. Therefore, without hesitation, Lin Xian immediately took action and flew toward the bronze coffin closest to him. The people outside were also stunned. Then they understood what had happened and were overjoyed. They didn't expect that the formation that had given them such a headache would be broken by a red snake. This was simply too unexpected. However, they didn't care how the snake had broken it. At that moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on the 3 bronze coffins. Needless to say, since the bronze coffins were protected by such a powerful formation, there must be something extremely precious inside. Chapter 1170. The 13th Prince, Xiao Fan and the rest took the lead. Since there were only 3 bronze coffins, these people went crazy and attacked quickly. This was because they might not be able to get anything if they were late. Lin Xian was the closest to the bronze coffin on the left, so he was the first to attack. Zhao Shui ran toward the bronze coffin in the middle. As for the one on the right, they abandoned it because the current situation did not allow them to be greedy. It was already good enough that they could save one. The dark red divine dragon did not attack. It did not snatch any of the coffins. Instead, it jumped to the side and watched the show. Die, brat. The 13th prince roared and charged toward Lin Xian. He had his reasons for doing so. Firstly, he wanted to capture Lin Xian and snatch all the treasures in his hands. Secondly, he wanted to take the bronze coffin on the left. Therefore, he went straight to Lin Xian as soon as he came in. On the other hand, Elder Qing Yun ran toward the bronze coffin in the middle. Xiao Fan, Meng Tian, and the rest rushed toward the one on the right. The others were also fighting over the coffins. The whole place was chaotic. However, not everyone was qualified to get close to the bronze coffins. At this moment, the 3 ghost lanterns on the 3 bronze coffins were jumping and emitting a cold aura. In an instant, the weaker martial artists were sent flying and vomited blood. There were only about 10 people left in the space. Apart from the 13th prince and the rest who were at 7th Heaven Honorable Realm, the rest were at 6th Heaven Honorable Realm. Of course, there was one exception, and that was Lin Xian. He was only at 5th Heaven Honorable Realm. However, he was safe and sound in the face of the power of the ghost fire. Although Lin Xian dodged the ghost fire's attack, the 13th prince did not plan to let him go. The 13th young master dashed towards Lin Xian and threw out a punch. His fist was imbued with the power of thunder and lightning. It was aimed at Lin Xian's head. If the punch landed, even a 7th Heaven Honorable Realm would not be able to resist it. The fist formed by lightning was extremely dazzling. When the fist was thrown, the entire sky shook. One could even clearly see countless bolts of lightning streaking across the sky. In the blink of an eye, the fist was right in front of Lin Xian's eyes. It looked like it was about to smash Lin Xian's head. At this moment, Lin Xian also moved. Scram. Lin Xian abruptly turned his head and shouted coldly. As soon as the word, scram, came out, it was like a clap of thunder, causing the void to tremble incomparably. Not only that, but the sound wave also contained purple lightning that surged forward. This sound wave was like a purple sea of thunder, with a long tail of light, and quickly blasted towards the lightning fist. The 2 bolts of lightning collided in the air, followed by an earth-shattering explosion. That terrifying energy fluctuation swept out in all directions, causing all the surrounding martial artists to retreat. The cultivators who were watching the battle from afar were all shocked. They had never imagined that a 5th Sky Venerable Realm brat would be able to resist the 13th Young Master's attack. This was simply inconceivable. One had to know that the 13th Young Master was extremely powerful. Even an ordinary 7th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator would not be able to go against him. However, a 5th Sky Venerable Realm brat had actually blocked his attack. They could not believe it. The 13th Young Master was also stunned. Then his face turned extremely ugly. This result was directly out of his expectations. In his opinion, his punch would definitely be able to smash Lin Xian's head. At that time, he would only need to snatch Lin Xian's storage ring and open the bronze coffin. This way the treasure would be his. Moreover, he would be able to vent the hatred in his heart. However, the truth was that Lin Xian had easily blocked his attack. Damn it, I don't believe it. The 13th Young Master went crazy. He did not dare to believe it at all. One had to know that there was a difference of 2 realms between the 2 of them. With a furious roar, countless bolts of lightning surged out and condensed into a lightning spear. Then, the 13th Young Master's arm shook and instantly, the lightning spear in his hand quickly pierced out. Like a ray of light of death, the lightning spear dragged a long tail of light as it quickly streaked across the void. Lightning? Lin Xian snorted coldly. He had recently absorbed the lightning power of the purple thunder divine bamboo, so he was not afraid of the 13th Young Master's lightning attack at all. With a flick of his finger, purple lightning gathered at the tip of his finger. Then it quickly turned into a purple long sword and slashed forward. A sword ray that could tear the heavens and earth apart flew out and quickly collided with the lightning spear. Suddenly, violent energy exploded and rubble flew through the air, slapping in all directions. What? He can really go against the 13th Young Master. It's not a fluke? Seeing this scene, the surrounding martial artists were all stunned. They could not believe it. Originally, they had thought that Lin Xian could block the first attack because of luck. However, he had blocked the second attack. This was not something that could be explained by luck. Even if the 13th Young Master was careless the first time and did not use his full strength, he would definitely not be careless the second time. However, Lin Xian could consecutively block 2 attacks. This meant that he was definitely not weaker than a 7th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator. Thinking of this, everyone was shocked and took a deep breath. If Lin Xian was a 7th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator and could go against the 13th Young Master, then it would be fine. However, he was clearly only a 5th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator, but he could unleash battle power that was not weaker than a 7th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator. This was simply too terrifying. Damn it, this kid is too strange. Elder Qing Yun, who was fighting with Zhao Shui, saw this scene and his pupils constricted. Humph, old thing, you should be more concerned about yourself. Zhao Shui snorted coldly. Golden light flickered in her eyes. Together with the void sky eye above her, she unleashed an extremely fierce attack. Elder Qing Yun immediately roared in anger. Impossible, how is this possible? The 13th Young Master could not believe it. In the next moment he gritted his teeth and said, Kid, I don't know why your battle power is so strange, but even if you have the strength of a 7th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator, you will still die. Because no one can challenge me. The 13th Young Master's face was cold as he shouted, Great Sun Thunder Technique. Immediately, lightning surged from his body and quickly condensed into a lightning sun behind him. Countless bolts of lightning illuminated the surroundings, illuminating the sky with a resplendent glow. The 13th Young Master stood in the sea of lightning like a god of thunder, looking down at all directions. An extremely violent aura rushed out from his body as if it could tear the world apart. Great Sun Thunder Technique, it's the Great Sun Thunder Technique. Great, the 13th Young Master is serious. That kid is definitely dead. Of course, the Great Sun Thunder Technique is an earth martial technique. Even a 7th Sky Venerable Realm cultivator cannot go against it. In the distance, the Shen family cultivators saw this scene and immediately cheered. This was because they knew the power of the Great Sun Thunder Technique. They also knew that the 13th Young Master had cultivated the Great Sun Thunder Technique to the lesser success stage. As long as he used the Great Sun Thunder Technique, no one in the same cultivation level would be his match. In the next moment, the 13th Young Master looked coldly at Lin Xian. Kid, I have to say that you are quite strong to make me use the Great Sun Thunder Technique. But that's all. Chapter 1171. Kid, to be able to force me to use the Great Sun Thunder Technique, I have to say that you have some ability. But that's all. Next, I will let you know what true power is. Finishing his words, the 13th Young Master's eyes narrowed and his palm quickly blasted forward. Suddenly, the lightning sun behind the 13th Young Master was like a small mountain, quickly pressing down on Lin Xian. Everywhere it passed, the void shattered and a sea of lightning spread out. Earth Rank Martial Art, Great Sun Thunder Technique. Lin Xian frowned. He did not expect the 13th Young Master to have a lightning-attributed Earth Rank martial art. This was good stuff. However, even with the Great Sun Thunder Technique, Lin Xian was not afraid because he also had an Earth Rank martial art. Gale Lightning Sword. Lin Xian let out a low growl as the lightning on his body surged rapidly, forming a gigantic sword that soared into the sky and slashed forward. When the huge sword formed by purple lightning appeared, a terrifying aura surged in the sky. It was as if this sword could destroy everything. Looking at the huge sword formed by purple lightning, the surrounding martial artists were all shocked. What sword technique is this? It's so terrifying. Damn it, this aura is so terrifying. Why do I feel that it's not any weaker than the Great Sun Thunder Technique? Could it be an Earth Rank martial art too? Everyone discussed as if they had seen a ghost. The Shen family disciples' faces were even uglier. Damn it, why does this kid have an Earth Rank martial art? Humph, so what if he has an Earth Rank martial art? He's not as strong as the 13th Young Master, so he can't display the true power of an Earth Rank martial art. Just watch, maybe he hasn't even grasped the surface of it. A group of people sneered, unwilling to accept the truth. Seeing Lin Xian's huge purple sword slashing towards him, the 13th Young Master was also stunned. From this aura, it was obviously the aura of an Earth Rank martial art. Damn it, this kid has an Earth Rank martial art too. The 13th Young Master was very surprised. But soon he sneered. So what if he has an Earth Rank martial art? I've already cultivated the Great Sun Thunder Technique to the initial stage. One had to know that Earth Rank martial arts were extremely difficult to cultivate. Even if there were people who obtained Earth Rank martial arts, martial artists who cultivated to the minor accomplishment realm were very few. He did not believe that a fifth-layer venerable like Lin Xian could cultivate an earth-rank martial art to the initial stage. His opponent's cultivation was inferior to his, and his grasp of earth-rank martial arts was inferior to his as well. So as far as he was concerned, his opponent had no possibility of defeating him. Therefore he was completely at ease in this exchange. In the void, the two great earth-rank martial arts collided, emitting an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the sun formed by the great sun thunder technique shattered. It was shattered by the giant sword formed by the purple lightning. Impossible. The 13th young master let out a heart-wrenching roar and quickly retreated. He had never thought that this would happen. After all, he was a 7th level exalted and he was from a king clan. His strength was much stronger than many ordinary 7th level exalted. Adding on the fact that he had already cultivated the great sun thunder technique, an earth-rank martial art, to the initial stage, there were not many people in the same rank who were his match. However, he had been forced back by a mere 5th heavenly layer exalted. I don't believe it. The 13th young master roared crazily, and his terrifying voice shook the surroundings. At the side, the experts who were fighting for the other two bronze coffins also turned their heads to look. After that, other than Zhao Shui who was expressionless, the other experts were all shocked. Xiao Fan from the Deity Sword Villa, Meng Tian from the Immortal Martial Academy, and the others all focused their gazes on Lin Xian. They could feel how powerful Lin Xian was. He was a powerful opponent. On the other hand, Dugu Outyin and Li Yunfei were shocked. How long had it been since they separated? Lin Xian was already able to fight against a 7th level exalted. This was too shocking for them. As for the elders, their eyeballs were about to pop out, especially Elder Qin Yun. His eyelids were twitching and his face was filled with worry. However, he was being held back by Zhao Shui, and there was no way for him to go and rescue the 13th young master. Brat, I want you dead. A terrifying voice shook the 9 heavens. The 13th young master's black hair fluttered in the wind, and his entire body was surrounded by lightning. He's angry. He's really angry. If he didn't kill this brat in front of him, he wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. Thunder God's Fist. With a roar, the 13th young master performed the ultimate skill of the great sun thunder technique, Thunder God's Fist. Instantly, as his fist surged out, lightning flashed in all directions. Just the aftershock alone was enough to penetrate a 7th level exalted. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. He had just performed the Gale Lightning Sword technique. However, beside the purple firmament sword shadow, another 2 huge sword shadows appeared. One of them was completely red, and it was completely formed by flames, emitting a scorching aura. The other was completely golden, as if it was made of gold, and it contained a sharp aura. The fire and wind concepts merged into the Gale Lightning Sword technique, forming another 2 firmament sword shadows. Then, along with the purple firmament sword shadow, 3 huge sword chi slashed forward rapidly. The space in front of him was slashed open, and the violent energy drowned everything. The 13th young master had performed his ultimate skill, but he was still sent flying and vomited blood. He's been sent flying? Everyone was stunned because they realized that the 13th young master was in a worse state than before. Last time he was only pushed back, but this time not only was he sent flying, he even vomited a large mouthful of blood and was heavily injured. Young master. Elder Lai Hua screamed when he saw this scene. He didn't expect the 13th young master to be defeated so quickly. He didn't even have the chance to summon his martial soul. However, just as he screamed, Zhao Shui also activated her Void Sky Eye and shot out a golden ray of death, instantly sending Elder Qin Yun flying. In an instant, the 2 7th level exalted stage exalted of the Shen family were severely injured. This caused the disciples of the Shen family to be dumbfounded, as if they had been struck by lightning. Lin Xian didn't care about those people. He slammed his palm on the bronze coffin, opening it instantly. Unlike what he had imagined, there was no corpse inside. Instead, there was a ball of lightning the size of a fist. However, this lightning was white and it was different from ordinary lightning. The aura of this lightning was extremely cold. To be honest, Lin Xian had never seen such an aura of lightning before. However, the dark red divine dragon screamed, "This is Yin lightning." Yin lightning? Lin Xian was puzzled. This Yin lightning is extremely rare. It can only be formed from the corpse of a peerless expert in a special environment. Once formed, this Yin lightning is extremely powerful. Moreover, it is different from ordinary lightning. Its cold aura can catch other martial artists off guard. Kid, I have to say that you are very lucky. With this lightning, you can condense a lightning martial soul. Lightning martial soul? Hearing this, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.